Chapter 949. The Star Area Split. Chapter 949. The Star Area Split. All warriors of Broken Star Field were enraged. The anomaly of Broken Star Field had made thousands of broken stars become violent, flying asteroids that swept different areas of the far west region. The massive broken stars moved faster and faster. Their momentum was enhanced on the way. The impact created by these broken pieces were going to be earth-shaking. Many pieces were as large as a small continent that even a level 6 or 7 life star wouldn't be able to endure its impact. A catastrophe of the far west region was foreseen. This kind of catastrophe had never happened before. It wiped through the entire whole region. It would forcefully destroy homes of many experts. Warriors of different areas in the far west region rushed into Broken Star Field. After they knew what would happen shortly, they reacted as if someone had broken their inverse scale. They became violent, flying rapidly towards the center of Broken Star Field. If they wanted to know the originator, it would be simple. They just needed to check the center of Broken Star Field. Whichever area was still intact and didn't follow the changes of Broken Star Field would be the location of the originator. The center of Broken Star Field was a strange area that held the power to gather pieces of broken stars continually. It wasn't as secret as warriors of different races all know about it. Now they just needed to check if they found anybody there, and then they would find the answer. Thus, warriors who were exploiting rare materials in this area all moved towards Shurian's direction. Broken Star City was a part of Broken Star Field, one of the biggest broken pieces. As Broken Star Field was changing, the Broken Star City collapsed. It was divided into 3 parts, racing in 3 different directions. Warriors of different forces in the Broken Star City fell into a chaotic crisis, including AI Fu. A corner of AI Fu's ancient building collapsed as the ground under his feet rumbled. AI Fu had dust all over his face, his countenance helter-skelter. A shadow appeared in a dark area above his head. Young master. The shadow was restless. It was Shurian. He caused all of this. Damn it. AI Fu clenched his jaw, being foul-mouthed. That asshole acted unreasonably. He made the entire Broken Star Field dissolve. Countless pieces of broken stars are shooting everywhere. Many life stars will suffer from this disaster. Damn, I've been doing business in Broken Star City for so many years. Because of him, everything has been ruined in just a blink of an eye. Without Broken Star Field, Broken Star City can't exist. Many shops will be ruined. People have become tense. We're trying to transport the materials away. This bastard. How could he change the entire Broken Star Field like this? I don't know. The spooky shadow was distressed. I saw him inside a forest. He disappeared all of a sudden. Then explosions echoed from underground. Shortly after, Broken Star Field started to dissolve. I don't know what he had encountered underground, but I'm sure that the anomaly of Broken Star Field was brought by him. Bastard! That damn bastard! AI Fu gritted his teeth, his face dark and sinister. Watch him closely. Watch him for me. That motherf asterisk cur has destroyed Broken Star Field. He will bring a catastrophe to the far west region too. The ominous shadow also knew the crisis. He disappeared silently, not speaking anymore. Dash. Master of Blood Halberd also moved toward the center of Broken Star Field. All experts of the forces based near Broken Star Field in far west region took action and flew towards Shurian's location. For the time being, several thousand warriors of Broken Star Field moved towards the area like clouds of locusts. They all wanted to capture the originator and skin him alive. All of them looked angry, their eyes vicious and brutal. Big trouble, said the muscular black-scaled man. All warriors of Broken Star Field are heading to this area. I think we can't kill them all. Unless our master comes here personally, we don't have a solution to resist this battle, said the other. Wu Lan's face was as dark as the earth. She stooped and glanced at the ground underneath. She sighed and then spoke to Fei Lan. Can you contact him? We must get out of here as fast as possible. Otherwise, when they come, we won't even have a chance to run. Fei Lan and Ka Tua were also worried as if they had a fire in their heart. They knew how serious this commotion was. However, they sensed no aura of Shuryen underground. Their soul consciousness couldn't detect anything. They all had severe headaches. If we stay, we will be deemed the originators, and we won't be able to explain. Wulan pulled her bangs worriedly and speaking begrudgingly. We'll wait for a moment. If he doesn't come out, we will leave. Fei Lan discolored, shouting, if you leave, when Shuryen appears, the others will kill him on the spot. You don't want the only clansman who's from the same clan as your master to die, do you? Wulan and the two black-scaled men became hesitant. Get underground and find him. Quickly. Wulan pondered for a while. Eventually, she didn't want to wait in pain anymore. She didn't speak to Fei Lan and Ka Tua. She directly asked her fellows. Get underground immediately. Unless you bump into some barriers you can't solve, try your best to find him. All right. The two brawny black-scaled warriors roared. The black scales on their bodies rattled. Brutal light radiated under their feet. Boom. Boom. The firm ground underneath was pierced. It was as if they were cutting through pieces of tofu. They didn't say anything, jumping right into the holes they just made like moles. They moved further in. We should look everywhere. We must ensure that we can kill anyone who comes here first. Wulan became resolute and sinister. We must try our best and leave no living beings. Fei Lan and Ka Tua nodded continually. As they had just made up their minds, a shadow came with great anxiety. It was Jiyu. Before this event, he had hidden far away from the forest, concealing his aura and shadow. When Fei Lan and Ka Tua fought blood halberd, Tu Fei didn't dare show himself and he moved further away. Thus, people didn't see him. Jiyu had stayed in Broken Star Field for many years. He knew how to protect himself well. He understood that his realm wasn't high, so being a coward helped him live a little longer. When Tu Fei and the blood halberd soldiers were killed, he didn't know that happened or recognized the presence of Wu Lan's team. However, he recognized the anomaly of Broken Star Field. He was very suspicious, coming to see how Fei Lan and the others were doing and what was happening to Broken Star Field. That was why he showed himself. However, as soon as he landed, he retracted his neck as he was very terrified. From Wu Lan's and Ka Tuo's face, he could see murderous intentions, a feeling of no mercy that chilled him to the bone. He wanted to retreat immediately. Wulan rose her hand as if she was about to kill him, her face icy cold. At this moment, Ka Tuo gave a low shout, "He's one of us." Wulan recognized Jiyu. She knew that this kid used to accompany Shuryen's team. Frowning, she threw a glance at Fei Lan. Can we trust this man? I don't know. Fei Lan's eyes were malicious, better to clean everything. Don't. Ka Tua tried to stop them. He brought us to Broken Star Field. We shouldn't be so heartless. At most, we can confine him and make him silent forever. I agree. Jiyu understood the situation well. As his realm was low, he could only survive in Broken Star Field with his tricks. Jiyu threw his arms into the air, showing that he had put down all guard. He walked to Wulan and speaking sincerely, confine me. I'm willing to be restrained. He understood that the change of Broken Star Field was related to these people. Although he didn't have a high realm, he was smart. He knew that he saw things he shouldn't have. Now, he had to cooperate with them to save his life. Wulan was surprised. She nodded, you understood your case well. Okay, considering your good sense, we will spare your life. Fei Lan rose her hand, and a pale corrosive air fumed like the clusters of cloud covering Jiyu entirely. His consciousness became dizzy and hazy. Someone's coming. They're almost here. Wulan hissed. Fei Lan and Ka Tua discolored, urging their powers Upanishad. They were prepared to strike with lethal attacks in any minute. Boom boom. A strange noise echoed from the ground. A shout arose from the deep hole that the two black-scaled men had dug. We meant no harm. Ka Tua cheered up. He hastened to shout at the hole. Senior, we got trouble. Get out quickly. We don't have much time. Shuryen, they aren't enemies. Fei Lan also hissed. She moved like an arrow through the hole. Deep underground. Inside an ice crystal, Shuryen looked at the two black-scaled strangers with cold eyes. Hair rose on his entire body as he could feel intimidation from these two beefy men. It was a kind of terrifying aura that he had never seen before. Shiryen was ready to use the immortal demon blood to tear the sky and flee. If Ka-Tua didn't call for him, he would have gone already. At the moment Fei Lan talked to him, he calmed down, his face suspicious. Who are you? What's going on out there? He didn't know that Broken Star Field was disintegrating. As he was staying deep underground, he could only feel the strange tremors. We don't have much time to talk. We must retreat now. Once the experts of Broken Star Field come, we won't be able to leave, one of them shouted hastily. Shiryen changed his visage. He was bewildered for a while before nodding and flying up. Seconds later, he appeared by Fei Lan and Ka-Tua, shouting, "What should we do?" He didn't know the details, but from Fei Lan and Ka-Tua's countenances, he knew it wasn't going well. Congratulations. Fei Lan's eyes brightened and she nodded at him. I didn't expect that you would reach second sky of Original God Realm that quickly. It's good. Anyway, we have to get out of here immediately. I'll tell you the situation on the way. Congratulations. Ka-Tua also saw Shiryen's changes, hurriedly congratulating him. Shiryen smiled. He said, then we should go quickly. Move. Wu Lan was hurried. We must leave now. Someone's coming. The two black-scaled men appeared. They looked in a general direction, speaking, follow us. No one's coming this way. We will get out of here quickly. Fei Lan's team didn't say anything, dragging Ji and following them. Chapter 950, Inevitable Fierce Combat. Chapter 950, Inevitable Fierce Combat, _ Master directed us to capture Shiryen at any cost, G. The old man with a withered face said to Ai Fu in his hall. Capture Shiryen at any cost? Ai Fu screamed. Why does grandfather want to capture him? They all have that blood mark, which is identical to the expert that had intruded Broken Star Field several thousand years ago. That expert had killed so many people that his hands were soaked with blood. I'm not sure if it's a wise move to offend him. I don't know his reasons. But this was Master's orders, snarled the old man. Ai Fu nodded. If my grandfather said that, he must have his plan. If so, we will spread the news that Shiryen was the originator of Broken Star Field's anomaly. Yeah, we must notify Niger and Afong. They all have grudges against Shiryen. They're searching for him, though. I think they will be interested. Okay. The old man left quickly. Niger was a powerful tyrant of the Ghostmark clan in Far West region. The Ghostmark couple that Shiryen had encountered was Niger's subordinates called Gate and Feng Ro. As Feng Ro was killed and Gate had escaped from Fei Lan, of course, they didn't want to let this thing slip away. De Feng was the master of Blood Halberd. Tu Fei and Tu Feng were his men. Tu Feng and some warriors that Tu Fei led were all killed. Of course, this force didn't want to let their enemies stay alive. Shortly after, not only did Niger and De Feng receive the news from Ai Fu, but also most of the forces in Broken Star Field now knew what had happened. A huge hunting operation for Shiryen was carried neatly under the management of some leaders. Inside the detaching Broken Star Field, 5-colored mist and smoke hovered thickly. It seemed like it wasn't going to disperse. Shiryen's team had their god bodies glow radiantly as they were urging their powers to run at their max speed in a general direction. The two black-scaled warriors at Third Sky of Ethereal God Realm had their soul altars spin as they were navigating new directions to ensure that they wouldn't be surrounded. Gradually, they felt something wrong. It's weird. Wu Lan's furrowed her bold brows, thinning her red lips. Strange light sparkled continually in her beautiful eyes. They seem to know our route. More and more people are gathering. They know where we are going. Ka-Tua was startled. How could it be? We haven't seen anyone in our way yet, right? Moreover, we have 2 precursors sensing to avoid them. Many warriors near here are moving towards us. They know our location, said one of the black-scaled experts, his face stern. We are in big trouble. Seems like it won't be easy to get away. Fei Lan didn't say anything. She just looked at Shiryen indifferently. They're correct. Our whereabouts are disclosed. Shiryen was still calm. Although my realm's low, my soul consciousness could cover a long range. Several thousand warriors around have received the information. They are waiting ahead of us. They have some battleships too. All are waiting for us. Using space power Upanishad, his soul consciousness could extend very far. Although he had only second sky of original God realm cultivation base and his soul consciousness couldn't cover a large area like the two black-scaled experts, when he focused on some specific directions, he could gather more information than the others. He had released several flows of soul consciousness, which precisely reflected the surroundings to him. Teams of warriors entered Broken Star Field and scattered around the area, moving towards the center of Broken Star Field. However, around 1 hour ago, many of them had a clear target. They didn't move towards the center of Broken Star Field. Instead, they headed to Shurian's location. Apparently, they had evidence. They knew that this group had caused this catastrophe. And moreover, they knew Shurian's location. Shurian halted. The fantasy sky ring on his finger glowed weakly. A light curtain twisted and then unfolded. The mother and child sky linking formation appeared. Boom, boom, boom. Divine crystals that looked like pieces of broken jade flew out of his ring, inlaying precisely in the concave spots of the child formation. Light sparkled as the energy of the crystals had activated the child formation. Light sparkled beautifully, generating the light door, which vaguely led to a deep, unknown place. Shurian looked at Fei Lan and Ka Tua. He took a deep breath and then said, "You guys should return to Old Orchid Star now." Fei Lan and Ka Tua were shocked, shaking their head continually. Wu Lan and the two black-scaled experts' eyes brightened. They were astounded looking at the child formation. They complimented it. What a magical space formation. Excellent. Kid, your realm isn't high, but you can control such a precious treasure. You rock. Shurian explained to Fei Lan and Ka Tua with a serious countenance. This trip will be perilous. They've sent many experts with high realms. You can't give me much protection even if you go with me. You should return first. Senior, we will never leave you. If we have to fight to the death, I want to fight shoulder to shoulder with you. Ka Tua gritted his teeth, his eyes bloodshot. Deadly aura arose around his body. Isn't it just slaughtering? Who should I fear? Fei Lan resisted with silence. I cultivate space power Upanishad. If I'm not killed in a blink, I'll always have a chance to survive and flee. Shurian shook his head. He was actually touched. If I'm not sure, I won't ask you to stay with me. You guys should return to Old Orchid Star for now. After I escape this mess, I'll come back and pick you guys up. He couldn't leave. If he left, the child formation of the mother and child sky linking formation must be destroyed. Otherwise, their enemies would use it to get to Old Orchid Star. They would bring a catastrophe to Old Orchid Star. Shurian had vague confidence, and he didn't want to see the formation that he had labored to fix shatter so quickly. Fei Lan lowered her head, her face dark. The opponent may have many third sky of original God realm experts. It isn't impossible to kill you instantly. Shurian, even though the child formation is marvelous, we need to let it go when we need it. It's not worth taking risks. Yeah, right. Senior, as long as we return to Old Orchid Star, we can dodge this danger for a while. Then, we can plan the next step, advised Ka Tua. Wu Lan and the two black-scaled warriors stayed silent, waiting for the others' decision. No, Shurian said determinedly, not letting the others oppose. We can't let the child formation shatter. Once it breaks, if they come to Old Orchid Star for us, we won't have an emergency exit. With the child formation, as long as I'm alive, we can move everyone and all materials of Old Orchid Star. We can avoid the flames of anger of the other forces in the far west region. Don't say any more nonsense. You too, go back immediately. Otherwise, I won't consider you my friends anymore. Fei Lan lifted her head. She had a gleam of dim shadows in her eyes. If you die, we can't protect Old Orchid Star. You're our foundation. Ka Tua gritted his teeth, speaking ferociously, risk our lives. I don't think they can kill us all. I'm not going to be killed that easily, Shurian smiled coldly. I've been in the world of martial arts for years. I've experienced the must-die situations many times. But I haven't fallen yet. Believe me, I have enough tricks to protect myself. I'm sure I will survive. We're here, Wulon suddenly intervened, smiling faintly. As long as we're here, we won't let people kill him. Don't worry and just leave. Go. Shuryen rose his hand to guide them. The child formation with its magnificent light drifted, hovering by Fei Lan and Ka Tua and waiting for them to enter. Take care. Senior, take care. Fei Lan and Ka Tua nodded heavily. They weren't stubborn anymore. They jumped into the child formation, flashed, and then disappeared through the light door as Shuryen urged them. Swoosh! The child formation turned into beautiful light and disappeared into Shuryen's fantasy sky ring as guided. No worries anymore? Wulon chuckled. She was still calm. Although the enemies are many, it's not impossible for the four of us to break them. Pausing for a while, Wulon snorted, speaking arrogantly. Not many experts have the guts to resist our master in this rural area. I don't think they will dare to attack us. At this moment, Shuryen knew that their master blood demon was one of the members of the immortal demon tribe in Agate Star area. He was famous in the entire Agate Star area with his second sky of incipient god realm. As soon as we get out of the far west region, I can contact my master. With his powers, it won't be hard to travel through some small star areas to get here. One of the black-scaled men said arrogantly, our master is a famous flag of the demon clan in Agate Star area. He's a strong pillar of the demon clan. I believe that no one in this far west region dares to confront him directly. All right, we can brag later. Let's go. After Shuryen had arranged Fei Lan and Ka Tua suitably, he relaxed, feeling more comfortable. Wu Lan's bright eyes sparkled as she studied him, nodded inwardly. They didn't talk anymore, navigating their direction and then moving crazily to get out of Broken Star Field. A long time later, Shuryen, Wu Lan and the other halted, their pupils shrinking. Low rumbling noises from engines resounded through the dusty area in front of them. Slowly, 2,000-meter-long battleships emerged, blockading them. Those two battleships were made of bone and stone respectively. They were as bright and shiny as a silver bar. Stern warriors stood on the battleships. They saw Tu Fei and the Ghostmark man who had escaped on the battleships. That's him. Gate of the Ghostmark clan shrilled. With a grimace, he pointed at Shuryen from a distance, speaking hoarsely. They killed Feng Ro. A middle-aged Ghostmark man whose god body looked like a halberd had sharp eyes. He was Niger of the Ghostmark clan in the far west region. He had third sky of ethereal god realm cultivation base. Now, he was standing on the battleship, his hands clasped behind his back. He talked maliciously. How do you want him to get killed? He must suffer from every torture in this world. Keep his soul burning on the fire for 10,000 years, which will kill him little by little, said Gate through his gritted teeth. He's mine. Tu Fei shouted crazily like a beast baring its teeth. Your daddy here will skin him first. Shuryen's eyes were harsh and cold, grinning fiendishly. I'm afraid that you don't have such luck. Chapter 951, Space Spider Web. Chapter 951, Space Spider Web, _ As soon as he finished talking, Shuryen took action immediately. He crossed his hands in the void, slowly ripping it apart. Two space slits with dark light moved along with his arms, making a cross shape. Each of the two space splits was 1,000 meters long. Urging space power Upanishad, his soul altar spun rapidly. Energy in his body surged like a violent flood. The pure energy of Essence Chi Ancient Tree was consumed quickly. God power was the basis of all kinds of energy. It was magical and mysterious as it could activate all kind of powers Upanishad. After the two space slits crossing each other appeared, Shuryen continued to tear more space slits, weaving them with each other. Many warriors on the two battleships emerging from the gray mist looked scared. In any high-level star area, space power was the heavenly power that was really hard to perceive. However, once they got it and cultivated it, space power Upanishad could always be an intimidatingly mighty power. As more space slits appeared, people standing on the battleships grimaced. They frowned as they were hesitating whether to attack him or not. The Space Saber was the space-class weapon that could defeat everything. Each of the space splits led to the chaotic space basin. If they got in there, they would never get out alive. Shiryen used the space spits to make the lines and build a spider web around him which extended several hundred miles. If any warrior stormed into the web, they would be cut into pieces. Even if the ethereal god realm experts couldn't sway through the web, it could still mince them. Wulon and the black-scaled experts smiled seeing him build a spider web. People who use space power Upanishad were that intimidating. The trap made by spacelets would trouble even warriors with profound realms. Unless they all risked their lives to kill Shiryen, this space spider web couldn't be rendered useless. It would affect everyone. He's our master's nephew. If you dare to act rashly, don't blame my master for turning his back to you. Wulon stepped forward, shouting gracefully and arrogantly. I don't care what kind of disaster your Far West region has. Shiryen and our master are close anyway. If you dare to attack him, you'll become our enemies. The two muscular black-scaled experts grinned fiendishly and coldly at Niger and Afong. Blood Devil's troops? Niger frowned, glaring coldly at Shiryen and speaking darkly. Blood Devil has never come to our Far West region. Why did I not know that he's interested in this rural area? As far as I was aware, Blood Devil didn't have a family. Do you think your fabricated reason could cover that brat? We want him. It has nothing to do with Blood Devil. Please step away. Defong of Blood Halberd shouted, his eyes icy cold. Even Blood Devil himself, if he created such a catastrophe in Far West region, wouldn't dream of getting out of here intact. You have a lot of guts, Wulon sneered. Perhaps you do want to fight our demon clan. I also want to see if you have that competence. Kill. Kill. Niger and Defong exchanged looks. They spat their orders in unison. Silhouettes soared from the two battleships, moving like meteors. Their momentum was quick with surging energy like a rising tide. Those people knew how dangerous the spacelets were. They didn't dare to use the battleships. In this operation, they scattered, swaying and weaving like beams of light. They tried to avoid the thick mesh spacelets, moving between the narrow gaps. Instantly, energy shot out as each warrior urged his or her power Upanishad. Life, icicles, fire lines, thunderbolts, wind blades, and more swarmed over from their god bodies. They were like different branches of a flood, overflowing to the mainstream. Niger of the Ghostmark clan and Defong, Blood Halberd's master, took the lead. Wulon and the two black-scaled experts wore cold faces. They didn't expect the others to attack them. Oh! It seems like this rural area still has some passionate people. Tough then. One of the beefy men gave a low roar. He moved like light, confronting Niger in just a blink. He grinned, showing his teeth. The black scales on his body rattled as he stormed towards Defong. The two black-scaled experts came from a famous area in Agate Star area. They were much stronger than the warriors of the Far West region. Their powers generated ethereal extent, which was the world of ice and the world of earth. As soon as their ethereal extents appeared, they seemed to disorder the real world. Inside the icy world was a shoreless glacier, which looked like a massive sword stabbing the sky. It was tens of thousands of meters high with a transparent body and gloomy icy chi. As soon as his ethereal extent appeared, the glacier elongated through the sky, crashing forward. While moving, the glacier released a terrible freezing energy, which froze the low-realm warriors. They turned into ice sculptures, which were drawn into his ethereal extent, and then they shattered. Filling the world of earth was mist and sand. Yellow, sandy, ancient beasts roared and moved frighteningly. They bared their fangs and rose their claws to slaughter the warriors. Those ancient beasts seemed to be revived in the real world. They slaughtered, ripping apart original god realm warriors with their fangs. The two black-scaled experts were at peak of ethereal god realm. They seemed not too far from incipient god realm. Their ethereal extents were lively as if they were real and about to materialize. The world of ice and the world of earth had their power to transform magically according to the changes of their thoughts. Low-realm warriors who made contact with the ethereal extent were subdued entirely. Their realms were troubled, which affected their energy circulation. Niger and Defong discolored, releasing their ethereal extents. Niger had a thunderbolt world with countless roaring electric dragons. His thunderclaps shook the sky. Bunches of lightning strikes descended as if they wanted to tear the real world. Defeng's ethereal extent was a world of metals. Quickly, he got tens of thousands of cold metals, including sabers, swords, spears, halberd, tridents, and even silver hammers. Each of them was extremely sharp, as if they were the masterpieces of a skillful blacksmith. Countless weapons moved, multiplying in each ethereal extent, creating some kind of unusual metal formation which could kill all creatures like a sprinkle. For great ethereal extents appeared, disordering the real world in front of them. Thunderbolts impacted the glacier, crushing each other. Many sharp metal weapons were attacking the ancient beasts. Their arena stretched through thousands of miles, which made the real world shake. Initially, the spacelets were around 1,000 meters long. Under the pressure and collision from 4 great ethereal extents, they cracked, generating more space slits. Shuryen had flames and ice in his eyes at the same time. His space cracks started to move like real snakes. Boom, boom, boom. Warriors who hadn't reached ethereal god realm would have their god bodies explode from one touch by the space slits. In less than a minute, more than 10 soul altars appeared in front of Shuryen, which belonged to the warriors whose bodies exploded. They had to use their soul altars to survive. They didn't estimate that the still space splits could suddenly revive like that. They were ambushed. There was nothing the space splits couldn't destroy. The god body under ethereal god realm couldn't endure the tearing power, and they would crack and explode badly. If you want to kill me, let's see how much you can pay. Shuryen floated in the starry sea, smiling coldly. At this moment, his eyes became garnet as a bloodthirsty aura slowly filled the area. His eyes gradually became dull and icy cold. He had no gleam of emotions. At this moment, he looked like death who was observing a creature who had no feelings that a human should have. The third sky of rampage. His power Upanishad switched. Now, he had an absolutely deadly silent aura. He was like an ancient mummy that had survived thousands of years without a beam of life energy. Swoosh, swoosh, swoosh. A huge handprint towered the sky, releasing the death intent domain, filling the deadly silent aura and cutting off the vitality of everything. The death seal was as big as a mountain, but it could simply dodge the space split, snatching over more than 10 warriors at King God Realm and First Sky or Second Sky of Original God Realm. Under the death seal, those warriors paled as life energy in their bodies drifted away. The halos on their god bodies became ash gray. Crack, crack, crack. The death seal grumblingly pressed down. The god bodies of more than 10 warriors were smashed. Pieces of flesh and bone were sent everywhere. Clots of blood hovered, creating blood curtains. As the others wanted to kill him, Shuryen at Second Sky of Original God Realm had a good grasp of death and life power. Of course, he wouldn't stay idle. In his peak condition, his attack using his best abilities was unimaginably powerful. He hadn't urged immortal demon blood, which would have transformed his body. Shuryen just used Third Sky of Rampage to urge negative energy in his acupuncture points, giving power to this massive death seal. Shuryen was shaken inwardly. His confidence was boosted to a level that he had never had before. He suddenly recognized that unless he was confronting an ethereal god realm expert, there was no chance that he would lose. He had absolute confidence in his competence and powers Upanishad. His blood eyes sparkled strangely. Shuryen had red veins visible on his face. He looked like a demon from hell descended to this world, as he didn't have any beam of creature's emotions. He had only the pure thirst for blood and killing. A deadly will expanded from his god domain. The heavy dead aura flooded, extending to any warrior coming close to him. Boom, boom, boom. After the poor warriors had exploded, their blood was guided, creating a sea of blood with a pungent, iron-like smell. This blood sea seethed, generating malicious energy fluctuations that affected souls. The supernatural ability of death and life power Upanishad, the blood soul sea. The blood sea surged, resonating with his god domain. Under the god domain's direction, it covered an area of 10 miles around Shuryen. No matter how high their realms were, warriors who fell into the blood-soul sea lost their minds instantly. All became crazy. They started to attack everyone they saw, whether they were friends or enemies. They didn't care that even the opponents who were their brothers who had fought shoulder by shoulder with them for so many years. At this moment, they attacked each other madly, not recognizing that their consciousness had collapsed. Negative energy as thick as black ink gushed out from Yan's acupuncture points, pouring into the blood-soul sea, which then strengthened the destructive power of the sea. This kind of energy could distort souls, running directly into warriors' souls and crossing their sea of consciousness and tier of powers Upanishad in their soul altar to reach their god soul. Swoosh! Yan turned into a blood light flying swiftly above the blood sea. Tens of thousands of light dots, which carried life energy, disappeared into his god body like rain gathered from the vast sea. The soul burial ground ability of death and life Upanishad had cut off all vitality, taking it away. It contributed towards the taken energy into Yan's body, giving him more energy to control everything. At this moment, Yan at his second sky of original god realm looked like the sole god of this world. He had used his will and supernatural ability to change space, bring up death, and take away life. He was harvesting pure energy for himself. He was slaughtering, enjoying himself to the utmost. Chapter 952. Vicious Natural Instincts. Chapter 952. Vicious Natural Instincts, _ Warriors from different areas of Broken Star Field gradually emerged, surrounding Yan. Thousands of them came by hordes. Those people were from different forces and different races, but they had the same goal. They wanted to capture or kill Yan. The anomaly of Broken Star Field would bring an unpredictable catastrophe to the far west region. Pieces of broken stars would bombard many life stars, wreaking havoc. Those warriors would lose their shelters if their homeland got destroyed. Yan was the originator. Through different channels, they had confirmed this information from AI Fu. AI Fu was the heavenly eye in Broken Star Field. He had ears and eyes everywhere. No one doubted AI Fu's intelligence. AI Fu made people believe him by the credit he had built for hundreds of years. Battleships appeared one after another. They emerged like wild beasts of ancient times showing their fangs. They slowly approached the battle site. Each battleship carried experts of different clans. All of them looked stern. While those battleships were moving towards this area, they slowed down, not daring to join the battle site directly. The space spider web had stretched over thousands of miles, creating a horrible death trap. Those space splits were the most dangerous things that could cut off any matter. The battleships weren't designed to resist something like that. Is that kid really at second sky of original god realm? How can he sweep out everywhere? How could he kill the warriors whose realms were higher than his? This man is terrifying. At this realm, he can do such things. When he breaks through the original god realm, would we be able to confront him? Be careful. Don't let your anger make you a sacrifice for the others. Do not act rashly and get out there. Be watchful. Each battleship had a commander, and most of them were at ethereal god realm. They belonged to powerful clans of different forces. However, after observing for a while, they all became severe. The competence of Yan was showing how much was beyond their estimation. The space sabers weaved with each other, creating a vast spider web. The red blood sea in the center of the spider web was emitting evil, red mist where the murderous aura that terrified people rolled. Death energy fluctuated, covering the whole sky. Yan and the blood sea merged into one. The blood soul sea was formed by the blood of dead warriors. It had become part of his god body, a world of his own. In this world, he was the sole god. On the blood sea, warriors under Niger and a phone looked like they were insane. Their consciousness collapsed, their eyes filled with their basic instincts of killing. They blindly slaughtered all warriors around them. They seemed to have forgotten who they are. Dozens of warriors who were their blood comrades were killing each other in that blood-soul sea. They used their best powers Upanishad to make the whole world discolor. Their powers were like the thunderstorm cleaning up the entire place. Yan was now like a drop of blood, blending and disappearing into the blood-soul sea. However, the space sabers were encircling the Blood-Soul Sea. They were like dragons or snakes slithering around, but their power was enough to tear the whole sky. Outer space light shot out dazzlingly from those sabers. Those brilliant lights moved directly into the most mysterious space basin, the space-time crack. The two peak of ethereal god realm warriors of the black-scaled tribe, Niger and Defong, sometimes flashed into the real world. Their ethereal extents were pressing the real world, trying to break it. Although the ethereal extent wasn't an incipient extent, as soon as an ethereal god realm expert had enough energy, the world he created using his power Upanishad could be strong enough to crush the world. It would make all the creatures return to their origin, shattering every matter. The four great existences at peak of ethereal god realm were performing their ethereal extents in the sky, attacking and defending each other using the power of the ethereal extent. They made the whole place an etherealized world where the ethereal extents they created were real. No one dared to intrude that area. Niger's and Defeng's subordinates and the other hotshots from the other forces instinctively avoided that area. They would rather go through the spider web than get directly through their ethereal extent. The space spider web wasn't still. It was moving gently as Shuryen had changed his thoughts. They looked like a beautiful place of weaving lights. It swayed and moved from time to time. Every time it moved, the space sabers would elongate, crushing some warriors and leaving only the soul altars. Around the Blood-Soul Sea inside the space spider web, almost 100 soul altars were floating, which looked like magnificent lotuses. They sparkled in five-colored with different powers Upanishad surging. The souls bobbing above the soul altar were marvelously beautiful like the flame of life. Shuryen's god body was dark red. He emerged for a short time in the Blood-Soul Sea, looking at the soul altars floating around with great greed. He was struggling hard in his mind. He hesitated but didn't dare to take action. He disappeared into the Blood-Soul Sea one more time. He still remembered what the blood vein ring asked him to do. He should try his best to swallow more soul altars using his black hole. It was the best support for the ring spirit to complete its soul fusion. However, it was not the right time. In front of many warriors, if he let the black hole in his soul altar appear and swallow the soul altar, his biggest secret would be revealed. The master of Bloodthirsty's cortege of 8 was the wicked demon that people didn't want to be alive. His soul altar devouring power Upanishad was the most taboo power. If he disclosed it, he would never have a shelter in Agate's star area. All the races would hunt him down. He knew this clearly. Thus, he could only stare greedily at those soul altars while trying to restrain the avarice in his heart. The essence chi of the dead rolled massively into the Blood-Soul Sea, disappearing into his acupuncture points. The essence chi of those who had only the soul altars hovering hadn't dispersed into earth and heaven yet. Shuryen's god body attracted it, making it blend with the Blood-Soul Sea. He was using his acupuncture points to absorb it. This was also the function of devouring power Upanishad. Devouring power Upanishad was immensely marvelous. It could swallow essence chi and the soul altars of warriors. This was a taboo power that shouldn't exist in this world. It was the forbidden area that even gods didn't dare to touch. However, on the date he descended to Grace Mainland, at the moment he jumped into the blood pond, he had touched God's forbidden area. From that day onward, he was destined to be the foreigner, walking on the thorny path. He had never regretted, never hesitated or thought of it as a burden in his mind. Only a person with extreme greed would take energy accumulated throughout hundreds or thousands of years from the others. He would harm others to make himself stronger. That year, that day, when the first essence chi of the dead entered his body, he wasn't anxious or worried. He had only joy and astonishment. He had considered it the ultimate secret that he would never share with anyone. From that day onward, he knew that he had no way back. If he were a naive and kind person, he would have a demonic barrier in his heart. He would be fearful and have nightmares every night. Afterward, he would consider devouring Upanishad, the worst nightmare that he wanted to get rid of. He would proactively resist it. Shuryen wasn't such sort of man. Absolutely not. A person who can destroy the world for his own benefits wouldn't have a burden when he ruins the whole world and puts it back to the time of chaos just to strengthen himself. He would never step back. Only a person with those vicious natural instincts was eligible to receive the inheritance, walking on the road leading to the peak. This sort of man would never be accepted or tolerated. He was destined to bear eternal infamy. He didn't care. The blood soul sea had blood bubbles surging vehemently. The aura that could twist the soul swept over the area, dragged everything into the abyss of death and uncontrolled slaughter. Shuryen was hiding deep in the blood soul sea to gather dead chi with his acupuncture points. The devouring power Upanishad would refine it and make up the consumed energy used to build the space spider web, which would strengthen himself. Dozens of blood halberd hotshots under Defeng's commands had crossed the space spider web. They rushed with ferocious eyes. They were careful enough to stay by the blood soul sea when releasing the soul consciousness to locate Shuryen in the sea. They didn't jump in directly. A bright star slowly emerged from the blood sea with dazzling light. It was a real star that looked like a massive, brilliant diamond. Starlight emitted everywhere, carrying the undying will of star power. The star nucleus. It was the star hovering in Shuryen's nebula. The star then covered the blood soul sea. Billions of starlight beams extended like a river flowing from the nine-tiered sky, congregating at the star nucleus. The star nucleus enlarged rapidly, emitting countless starlight beams crossing everywhere. Sizzle, sizzle, sizzle. Dozens of hotshots of blood halberd were hit directly. They looked like they were crystallized with starlight on their bodies. They seemed to become the stars. Blood halberd's warriors became idle. Their faces slowly turned ash-gray. Starlight started to radiate from them as their soul altars were also filled with starlight. Swoosh! Orange-red flame soared, drawing the marvelous but evil curves in the sky like meteors. Those flames aimed precisely at blood halberd warriors who were crystallized. A flow of blood-like flames shot out from their bodies while their bodies melted like lava. They died without having time to wiggle. Wulon stayed by a corner of the blood soul sea. She didn't take action from the beginning, just observing. She had a gleam of fear deep in her beautiful eyes. Her mind flickered unsteadily as if someone had thrown a stone into the lake of her heart, a small stone that rose a tsunami. She was frightened by Shuryen's series of actions. This young man from the same tribe with their master had only second sky of original god realm, but the momentum he had created out of his efforts could compare to that of a first sky of ethereal god realm expert. And his coverage was even more extensive. Wulon was frightened, but her eyes were sparkling with dark light. Her ample bosom bounced slightly as she breathed. She realized that this young man could be fiercer than their master at such an age. Their master did have the competence to skip one level and battle others, but this man, he couldn't help but skip 2 levels. She must bring him out of here alive. Wulon made up her mind, her eyes resolute. She had prepared to do her best at the critical moment. Even if she got hurt, she had to get Shuryen out of this besiege. She had recognized Shuryen's great potential. She knew that he would become the most dazzling new outstanding warrior of the demon clan in the future. He would become a more prominent character than her master. Eventually, he could hold the entire agate star area in his hands. Chapter 953. The World of Shadows. Chapter 953. The World of Shadows, _ Dozens of battleships hovered around the space spider web. Thousands of warriors were waiting in silence, observing the fierce battle. Until this moment, only Niger's and Defeng's forces had participated in this battle. Many other forces from different clans were still watching indifferently. On one hand, they seemed to be afraid of Blood Devil. On the other hand, they also just didn't want to lose their troops. At least before the situation was clear, they didn't want to get involved in the mess. The space spider web was still moving. Warriors continued to go into the Blood Sea. The 4/3 sky of ethereal god realm warriors were still attacking each other. Their ethereal extents were still colliding and bombarding each other. They pushed the real world to the edge of being demolished. Shuryen hid in the Blood Sea. He hadn't shown himself until now. However, those who dared to enter the Blood Sea had their soul altars collapse. They lost their minds and started to attack everyone else. A brilliant star had flown up, radiating dozens of starlight beams above the Blood Soul Sea. Its light had made the brave warriors who dared to get into the Blood Sea turn to look at an asteroid, which melted from the scorching flame in the next moment. Wu Lan's visage changed. Her beautiful eyes became severe for the first time. Tu Fei had stormed over and released his tornadoes, hovering in front of the Blood Soul Sea. Accompanying him were 3 other ethereal god realm warriors, 1 at second sky and 2 at first sky. These were the hotshots under Niger's and Defeng's commands. It's time to end this farce. At this moment, Tu Fei was quite lucid. He wasn't quite his usual loony self. No matter how strong Blood Devil is, this place is the Far West region. You can't decide on our business. Wu Lan frowned. If you stop now, we won't hold any grudge even though you killed our blood halberd warriors. Tu Fei seemed to have confirmed something with Defeng, speaking coldly. If you poke your nose in our Far West region's business, then don't blame us for giving no face for Blood Devil. The 3 ethereal god realm experts scattered, quietly surrounding Wu Lan. Wu Lan had only the first sky of ethereal god realm cultivation base. As the 3 ethereal god realm experts had her surrounded, if they wanted to kill her, it was very unlikely that she would escape. She could have chosen to ignore Shuryen and retreated. With Blood Devil's reputation, no one would have dared to stop them. But if Wu Lan wanted to be involved, it was going to be hard to protect herself. Tu Fei kept silent, coldly looked at Wu Lan and waiting for her final decision. A blood light emerged on the Blood Soul Sea. Shuryen's cold and harsh visage appeared in that light as he looked at Wu Lan in the distance. He spoke calmly. My matter has nothing to do with you guys originally. I won't say a word if you leave. You shouldn't shoulder it for me. Wu Lan suddenly smiled as she was happy. Deliberately, she thinned her lips, whispering, "Seems like everybody thinks that I can't afford to join this battle." Then, Wu Lan's black wings opened, flapping gently. A strange world grew from above her head. It was a gray, gloomy area, like a shadow of the real world. They could see everything from the real world in there. They saw Shuryen, Tu Fei, and the 3 ethereal god realm experts surrounding Wu Lan. Just like an image in the water, it reflected the real world. This was Wu Lan's power Upanishad, shadow. Wu Lan rose her slender fingers. Tu Fei in her world was bound by dark light. Just like his shadow, Tu Fei in the real world seemed to be restrained too. In the real world, Tu Fei discolored. He suddenly felt an unknown force binding him entirely. He couldn't even move. The tornadoes which were swaggering around halted and then vanished. Wu Lan had a weak smile on her face. Her eyebrows were like a picture. Her fingers emitted beams of light, shooting towards the shadow ethereal extent above her head, aiming at the 3 ethereal god realm experts in there. The 3 warriors in the world of shadows were tied by the light as if they were bound by their own shadows. The warriors in the real world were also bound. The shadow power Upanishad restrained them, preventing them from urging their energy. Wu Lan was still smiling tenderly. Her delicate waist swayed gently, and she glided through her world of shadows like another shadow. Her beautiful, exquisite fingers continually poked the shadows of Tu Fei's team. Tu Fei and the other 3 warriors in the real world screeched. They all had bloody holes in their god bodies, which were bleeding badly. Wu Lan's power Upanishad was magical yet bizarre. It could project small shadows of objects in the real world to her ethereal extent. She didn't need to attack the warriors in the real world, but still did significant damage to them. This kind of power Upanishad was eccentric. They didn't know how she had cultivated it to such a profound level. She could even generate a world of shadows, which was truly powerful and terrifying. What a fierce woman! Shuryen was astounded. At this moment, he was looking at her seriously for the first time. He now realized that Wu Lan was afraid of him and Fei Lan, so she had to move away in Broken Star Field. She just wanted to see if he knew how to use the immortal grass or not. If she had attacked them with her best abilities, Fei Lan wouldn't have been able to defend herself. Wu Lan also has the confidence to fight warriors at higher realms than hers. Among the 4 ethereal god realm experts, 2 were at the same realm as Wulan, and the other 2 were 1 level higher than her at second sky of ethereal god realm. However, when Wulan released her power Upanishad, her world of shadows appeared. She gained the upper hand in just a blink. Tu Fei and the others were subdued before they could seize the time to generate their ethereal extents. You better seize this chance and escape. I only have the energy to bind them for 1 hour. Wulan said softly in her ethereal extent, her eyes serious. The 4 of them are at ethereal god realm. Even though I did as much as I can't kill them all. Also, more and more experts will come. I can only spare you 1 hour. Shi Yan darkened his face. He said, thank you. He knew how dangerous the situation was. At this moment, only Niger's and Defeng's forces had joined the battle. The other forces of Broken Star Field were still indifferent. He knew he endured until this moment thanks to the space spider web. If he let more ethereal god realm warriors approach, he wouldn't be able to resist such forces. They would smash his soul quickly. The reason why he was persistent and didn't flee was to gain the utmost benefits from the others' deaths to fill his energy. Since you've cultivated space power Upanishad, you should have a way to get out of here. Wulan mulled over the situation for a while and then said sincerely, if you leave, remember to visit our territory. We've done so many things just so that you can meet our master. How can I find your master? Shi Yan was surprised. Come to Devil Blood Star. As long as you can get to Devil Blood Star, my master will be there. I'm sure that no one from the far west region will dare to pursue you. I will remember. Nodding, Shi Yan's thought changed. A flow of space energy emitted from his body. Space slits appeared thickly in front of him. Kill! All of a sudden, hotshots standing on the battleships out of the battle site suddenly thundered. They could see that Shi Yan was planning to run away. Warriors cultivating space power Upanishad were the most slippery warriors in the world of martial arts. When they activated space slits and went through it, no one would stop them. Instantly, several thousand icicles, thunderbolts, fire columns, and electric dragons created from different powers moved agilely through the space slits, attacking Shi Yan like lances thrusting into the bone. Boom, boom, boom. His face exploded. Space energy that Shi Yan was urging disordered. He couldn't build the space bridge. The Blood Soul Sea was destroyed by several thousand powers Upanishad. It was torn apart, creating clusters of blood clouds. The wicked intent domain was ruined. Tui. Shi Yan spat out blood. Those powers Upanishads had affected his mind, distorting his will. Although he was fast enough to sway his body and dodge the icicles, electric dragons, and lightning snakes, he couldn't protect his body completely. Although his god body was as hard as heavenly rock, it couldn't endure the bombarding of different energies from the hotshots. The fierce energies seeped into his blood and flesh, damaging his bones and muscles. His god body was now wounded severely. He's not dead yet. Wow, he's not dead. How is he not dead? Many warriors on the battleships were frightened, their faces grimaced. That young man had only second sky of original god realm, but his god body wasn't blown off by the bombarding of different powers Upanishad. His soul altar didn't fly out. It was beyond their imagination. This man is scary. His god body's intensity could, perhaps, be compared to the Monster Clan experts. Otherwise, he could never have resisted such powerful attacks. His god body is tremendous. How many times has he quenched his body to reach such a level? Seems like he has a big harvest deep in Broken Star Field. We have to capture his soul altar to extract his memory to get the truth of what had happened back there. Right. The reasons why they came here for Shi Yan didn't include just asking him to pay for what he'd done, but also to know what he had gotten in Broken Star Field. The Broken Star Field had existed for tens of thousands of years in the far west region. The extremely marvelous ability it had was attracting pieces of broken stars. People thought that it had a secret and that it was a whole new world. As Shi Yan had broken the magic of Broken Star Field, which led to the disintegration of Broken Star Field, they thought that he had harvested the secret. Regardless of what it actually was, all of them thought that this secret was a critical matter. They wanted to share the benefits from the secret. This was their real purpose for letting Shurian stay alive. Crack! 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 Shurian's bones resounded noisily and strangely. His god body turned red as the immortal demon blood inside, which was surging, healing his damaged body. After a short moment of astonishment, the onlookers frowned, flying towards Shurian to capture him or to restrain his soul altar. In their eyes, Shurian was the key to unlocking Broken Star Field's anomaly. They were afraid that they would be slower than others. All moved as fast as lightning, as if they were crossing long distances, and appeared in front of Shurian in just a blink of an eye. As they had been waiting for a long time, seeing this opportunity, they weren't hesitant anymore. Chapter 954, Sharpening. Chapter 954, Sharpening, _ More and more icicles, lightning sabers, fires, and lava rocks with tremendous power grumblingly rushed over at Shurian. Shurian tried to build a space door to run away from Broken Star Field. However, after he had been hit the first time, the second wave had come before he could steady his body. Rumble! 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 Shurian felt like hundreds of giant hammers pounded him. His body was smashed and bleeding. His eyes became dispirited. Holy S**T. His soul altar hasn't been destroyed yet. This brat is like a cockroach that we can't beat up. If the soul altar hasn't left the body, that means his god body hasn't been smashed yet. How much did he quench his body? Monster. Morbid. After Broken Star Field's hotshots begun their operation, they screamed as they saw that they couldn't destroy Shurian's god body after the second wave of attack. All of them were astounded. A warrior with only second sky of original god realm had a tenacious god body that was beyond their imagination. Wulon helped Shurian hold two-phase team down. Seeing Shurian being attacked continuously, her face became cold. She shouted, shameless. Those who were attacking Shurian had not only King God Realm and Original God Realm. Some of them were at Ethereal God Realm. Due to the far distance, they couldn't release as much energy as they wanted to. However, their powers were still intimidating. Many hotshots were attacking only one warrior. They didn't know shame. Wulon was infuriated. More shadows appeared in her world of shadows, which reflected the warriors who were striking Shurian. Wulon gritted her teeth and snorted. Her delicate fingers continued to poke shadows of the hotshots in her world of shadows. Puff. 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 The oncoming warriors of Broken Star Field had their bodies explode on the way. Blood splashed as bleeding holes appeared in their chests. The High Realm warriors had their power Upanishad restrained for the moment. They couldn't urge their energy. All looked at Wulon with rage and resentment. Wulon was hiding in the world of shadows. Her face turned as pale as a sheet of paper. She had consumed a lot of energy. She looked at Shurian in the distance, speaking weakly. Quick! Dispirited, Shurian was awakened by her call. Immortal demon blood seethed in his body. Boom! 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 His bones sounded crisp. A new flow of newly generated energy turbulently shot out. Shurian's eyes became garnet. He used a lot of energy to condense and connect a space door. Layers of light doors appeared in front of him. He gritted his teeth and turned his head to check for the last time before jumping directly into the life door. Shurian flashed and then disappeared. The light door closed. Marvelous and unpredictable space energy faded away. The regular atmosphere resumed. The space slits blurred and vanished as his aura and god body disappeared entirely. Tui. Wulon spat out a mouthful of blood. The light dimmed in her eyes as her world of shadows collapsed. Tu Fei and the warriors who were restrained by the world of shadows got rid of her restraint immediately. All rolled their eyes and stared at Wulon as if she had just killed their parents. Wulon bit her lower lip. She smiled tiredly, but she didn't move. She just spoke deliberately, "You can try to kill me. But you have to remember this. If I get killed, Blood Devil will definitely give the Far West region a bloodbath." Afterward, people got frightened. People who wanted to attack her became hesitant. At this moment, two strange lights flashed. The two muscular black-scaled warriors appeared. With a cold and harsh countenance, they guarded Wulan's sides. Did he leave? One of the black-scaled men hissed. Wulan nodded gently. He's hurt. I'm not sure if he survived. It's all right, the man smiled reluctantly. He's from a mortal demon clan like our master. As long as his god body isn't obliterated, he can always heal himself. The other raked through the crowd. He snorted and said, we should go now. I also want to see if those people of the far west dare to kill us. The two black-scaled experts covered Wulan, flying away. Their countenances were icy cold. Many warriors along their way shifted restlessly as they were all angry. However, when Wulan's team passed them, they didn't dare to do anything rashly. Even Niger and Afong kept silent at this moment. They just coldly looked at Wulan's team flying away. They weren't afraid of the three in Wulan's team. They were afraid of Blood Devil. They didn't want to cause any grudges against Blood Devil, which would drown the far west region in blood. After Wulan and the others left, they immediately used their special powers. They turned into 3 beams of light and disappeared. Although many experts of the far west region were watching them, no one dared to attack them at this moment. This operation of theirs targeted Shuryen only. They didn't come here to offend Blood Devil. If they couldn't capture Shuryen's soul altar, killing Wulan wouldn't do anything but enrage Blood Devil. So in this situation, keeping silent was a good move. Niger and Afong quietly moved to the area where Shuryen had disappeared, releasing their soul consciousness to investigate. After a while, they sighed begrudgingly, shaking their heads. Warriors who cultivate space power Upanishad are the toughest ones to kill. Niger forced a smile, speaking to Gate. I have no solution now. It's not that I don't want to take revenge for Fengro. We don't know where that brat has gone. It would be difficult to hunt him down. Master, please help me investigate where he has gone, replied Gate respectfully. Niger nodded. Don't worry. Fengro was also my subordinate. I will seek justice for her. I will try my best to find that brat. According to you, he's not alone here. He went with an old woman and a muscular man. Where are they? Defeng of Blood Halberd came to ask Tu Fei. Tu Fei shook his head. I don't know. I didn't see the other two. Suddenly, an old man stepped out of the crowd, walking to Niger and Defeng. He was the one of the two who helped Ai Fu watch over his treasury. He was sent to Broken Star Field to seek information about the thousand-fold lotus from Shuryen. However, as he got another instruction from his master, he changed his approach. They should be an old orchid star, the old man frowned. Our heaven I saw them disappear using the mother and child sky linking formation. They should reappear in old orchid star where the giants are staying. Old orchid star? Defeng's eyes became colder. As the giants have formed a relationship with them, they court death themselves. The giant tribe doesn't want to live anymore, said Niger. Go to Old Orchid Star. Go to Old Orchid Star. Many warriors of the far west region became excited as they shared the same grudge, shouting clamorously. Old Orchid Star. Phelan, Leona, and Ka-Tua were gazing at the mother formation in the mysterious ancient city, their faces stern. After a long time, nothing happened to the mother formation. It had no sign of being activated. It has been a long time and we got nothing. Did something unexpected happen? Ka-Tua growled. We shouldn't have left. If we stayed, we could have at least fought with him. The others are very strong. They are the union of different forces. Unless we have someone at Incipient God Realm, we can't do anything. Leona now had reached Ethereal God Realm. She looked at Ka-Tua, speaking calmly, your senior won't be killed that easily. He has cultivated space power and he's good at using space to escape. I think he just doesn't have a spare moment to message us. Na Xian and Zhanggu of the giant tribe were also there. They looked anxious. I'm sorry. They know that we killed Tu Feng. Phelan sighed, speaking to Na Xian. Blood Halberd won't let it go easily. If they can't find Shuryen, they will go to Old Orchid Star to take revenge for sure. Old Orchid Star will have a lot of trouble. Na Xian and Zhanggu exchanged looks. They became distressed, sighing. What should we do? Phelan rubbed his forehead. We can't wait in Old Orchid Star for a long time. Do we have anywhere else to stay? Baitian and people from Raging Flame Star area became restless, looking at Phelan and expecting a direction. Phelan didn't have a good solution. We aren't familiar with Agate Star area. We have to see if not Eccentric has any solution. If they want to attack Old Orchid Star, we'll have only one choice, which is to leave this place. We don't have the competence to resist them. Blood Halberd will easily destroy all creatures of Old Orchid Star. We giants have no countermeasure. Not Eccentric wore a bitter visage. We can't stay on Old Orchid Star any longer. We must leave soon. Sigh. I never thought that we would have to leave our home. I thought I could strengthen my tribe after I got the inheritance from our old ancestral land. But now this happened. Phelan and Leona felt embarrassed. As they didn't know what to say, they could only keep silent. If Shiryen hadn't killed Tu Feng, they wouldn't have brought such a disaster to Giant Tribe. And the giants wouldn't have needed to leave Old Orchid Star. Because of their existences, the giants had to bear this catastrophe. You guys don't need to feel guilty, not Eccentric seemed to understand. Without Shiryen, we couldn't have gotten out of the Mi Brothers trap when we were in Broken Star City. Perhaps we wouldn't have been able to leave Broken Star City alive. Zhenggu nodded. It's the culpa of our giant tribe. Our tribe must thrive, so I think it's inevitable. If we gain something, we will always lose something. We got a lot of good things recently. Of course, we would have to endure the torture of destiny. We can leave Old Orchid Star. As long as we giants have enough time to recover, we will absolutely grow stronger. Now we should consider which area to move to, not Eccentric pondered. Speaking to Phelan, you guys should hurry to prepare. And right, we must keep the Mother Formation to connect to Shiryen. Once he has time, he will open the Mother Formation. Maybe we can retreat through the Mother Formation. Phelan and the others nodded. Not Eccentric and Zhenggu didn't linger. They returned to the Grand Mountain of the Giant Tribe to prepare for their great migration. Phelan, Longju, and Yunhao from Grace Mainland had ordered their fellows to prepare everything and wait for Shiryen. If Shiryen didn't activate the Mother Formation, they could only leave Old Orchid Star. Chapter 955, An Eccentric Man. Chapter 955, An Eccentric Man _ Blood circulated in Shiryen's entire body while he silently floated inside a blue bubble. This was a marvelous world of colors. However, it didn't have a bit of earth and heaven energy besides the blue bubbles. Those bubbles emitted an immense blue light like some kind of barrier. Streamers moved around the place like rivers crossing the void. Blue bubbles filled every corner as if they were part of a vast sea. The bubbles had many sizes. The big ones were as massive as mountain ranges, while the small ones were as large as fists. Shiryen was staying inside a bubble big enough to cover him entirely. Blue bubbles floated, slowly moving in a direction. Inside the bubble, Shiryen gradually healed his badly wounded god body. Under the magical effects of immortal demon blood, his broken bones and vessels grew and connected to each other. They had recovered at a speed that naked eyes could observe. This place didn't have a concept of time. Shiryen didn't know how long he had spent here before he woke up. His face changed immediately. He turned around, standing up inside the bubble. His face became incredibly severe. This was not where he should have arrived. There was no beam of earth and heaven energy. No sun, moon, or stars. Needless to say, a piece of land. This was a space crack. Shiryen was frightened. As he cultivated space power Upanishad, he understood well what the space crack meant. It was an absolutely deadly silent area. It didn't have energy or traces of human operations, other creatures, or florists. This place had only endless desolation. When Shiryen escaped Broken Star Field, he remembered clearly that he had built a space door which would reasonably lead to Agate Star Area, as he had this in mind at that time. It shouldn't be some space crack. After taking a deep breath, Shiryen sat down cross-legged. He put aside the anomaly of this place for a moment to check the changes of his god body. His eyes brightened. The wounded god body had completely recovered. Not only that, the essence chi ancient tree in his body was filled to the brim. His power had reached a new height. He immediately understood that his acupuncture points had absorbed and refined the energy, providing to his entire body and healing him. Besides, he received more benefits from that. At this moment, he was at second sky of original god realm with abundant energy and magical powers Upanishad. He should have been happy. However, his face was dispirited and reluctant. It was because he didn't know how to get out of this space crack. He didn't know how to get back to Agate's star area. His soul consciousness was restricted in this area. He had no other magical sensibility but his eyes to observe the surroundings. Being baffled for a while, he silently circulated his energy, trying to break the blue bubble. Boom! The blue bubble covering his body burst off. A flow of chaotic space energy grumblingly flooded in like a tsunami, striking his body directly. A blood-red halo emerged, resisting the chaotic space energy. Shuryen had to consume his energy a lot to maintain the halo. His countenance changed. Shuryen looked at a blue bubble. His thoughts flickered and his body shot like a space saber into that bubble. The blue bubbles could resist turbulent space flow. Shuryen was safe taking shelter inside the bubble. Tens of thousands of blue bubbles were floating, moving slowly in the same direction. There was no star around, but the streamers moved swiftly. If he didn't have a tenacious body, he would have been broken easily. Shuryen didn't know what was going on around him. However, he was able to confirm one thing. The reason that he appeared there wasn't that he had aimed wrongly. Somebody had affected his space door, deviating him. Otherwise, he should have been in some area of Agate's star area at this moment. Even though Shuryen had been cultivating space power Upanishad, he hadn't reached the level that he could move through the space cracks as he pleased. He couldn't find the door that opened to Agate's star area. For the time being, he had a headache. He knew his operation in Broken Star Field would bring a disaster to the giant tribe and his friends in Old Orchid Star. He had planned to stop by a life star and activate the child formation of the mother and child sky linking formation. That way, we could evacuate his people in Old Orchid Star. Shuryen knew that he was rushing. If his friends in Old Orchid Star couldn't leave early, the natives of Old Orchid Star will receive a catastrophe. Shuryen was restless. Countless bubbles were floating and moving towards an unknown area. Shuryen didn't know when they would reach their destination and when he could find the way to return. He must have a solution quickly. With a dark face, he decided to use his energy to resist the chaotic space current. He started to jump through the bubbles, heading to where the bubbles were heading. As Shuryen understood the solution, he applied it immediately. He urged the energy around his body, making his god body twinkle with starlight. He broke his bubble and jumped to the nearest bubble. As soon as his god body left the bubble, the streamers immediately crossed over him. Attacks as potent as billions of tons of water pouring on the sky gave him a massive pressure. Each of his muscles was tense. He could feel pain in his brain too. He could enter the bubble, but he had to consume his energy. There were tens of thousands of bubble in front of him. With his energy, if he kept moving forward, he could only get through around 100 bubbles before draining all of his energy. He could only use divine crystals to restore. Shuryen knitted his brows tightly, hesitating. This place looked strange and unpredictable. He hadn't seen this the first time. He didn't know anything about this place. If he drained all of his energy, in case he encountered a danger, what would he do? But if he couldn't find a way out and kept floating in a bubble like this, how could his friends in Old Orchid Star dodge this calamity? Taking a deep breath, Shuryen continued to use energy covering his body. He gritted his teeth, dashing forward. More than 10 blue bubbles passed him while he was moving like a shuttle. When he stopped inside a bubble to recharge his energy, he looked around to check his surroundings. There were so many blue bubbles ahead, behind, above, and beneath him. All of them were heading in the same direction, which he didn't know where it led. He didn't know what would be waiting in the other end neither. His face darkened, but his eyes were still bright, staring at something ahead of him. In front of him was a bubble as big as a rubber ball where a cluster of mist dwelled, which had soul energy fluctuations. Shuryen was perplexed. Hesitating for a while, he moved fast forwards. His god body forcefully resisted the space streamers, entering a bubble around 100 meters away from the bubble with soul energy. Inside that pocket-sized bubble, the gray mist slowly condensed into an ash-gray ancient face. It looked a bit blurry. Facing Shiryen, he seemed to furrow his brows, releasing his shaking soul energy. He didn't look pleased at all. Don't struggle. This place doesn't have earth and heaven energy. You can't regain what you've consumed. Better to save energy for the critical moments. Shiryen was baffled, asking, "Who are you?" He suddenly realized that the reason why he appeared here somehow related to this person. Indeed, the blurry soul snorted, speaking coldly. "I had to spend a lot of energy to bring you here. Behave. Don't use energy. Save as much as you can. Who's the mother f*** cur that asked you to bring me here?" Shiryen's visage became cold. "I'd navigated and built the space door without a mistake. You interfered and brought me to this unknown space crack that I don't know how to get out of. What do you want?" "Kid, don't be ungrateful," snarled the soul. "Ordinary people can never get into this place. If I haven't consumed a lot of energy to drag you here, how could you have been here? Don't babble. Just wait there. I've got a plan for you. I need to get back." "Why did you bring me here?" "Please send me back," roared Shiryen. "Don't even think about it." The soul sneered coldly. "I've used a lot of energy to bring you here. How could I let you go easily? I'm telling you, if you don't help me, you should never dream about getting out of this place. I know you cultivate space power, Upanishad, but without my direction, you can't use your power to get out of this place." Shiryen darkened his face. He kept silent. His eyes became garnet. Swish! A bunch of starlights shot out from his finger, tearing the bubble and aiming at his soul. Sizzle! Sizzle! The bunch of starlights that Shiryen shot out vanished quickly. It couldn't gather more energy. When it was about to enter the bubble, the energy in the light wasn't even more than 1/10 the required energy. The vague, ancient face snorted disdainfully. A beam of soul energy emerged. Space streamers gathered, attacking Shiryen's starlight. PFFFF. Shiryen's attack was shattered instantly, unable to be a threat to others. "Kid, don't waste your energy. I understand that this place is much better than you. As you have only second sky of original God realm, I wouldn't take you here if you could attack me." The old man grinned fiendishly. "Better to behave. If you help me with this, I will bring you back. I'll even give you a big gift too. If you keep that stupid thought in mind, you'll stay here for the rest of your life with me. I've been so lonely for several thousands of years. It's good that I have someone to talk to." "Who are you? What do you need me to help you with?" Shiryen frowned, calming his mind. "You want me to work for you, right? At least you have to tell me my scope of work." "Mwahaha. When we get there, I'll tell you. For now, you just need to be content with your lot." The bodiless soul laughed eccentrically. "Don't worry. If you do your best to help me, I won't mistreat you. It's your good fortune that you can be here. You don't know how many warriors have tried to explore this place, but they never found the door. Kid, you're lucky." Chapter 956, Thorough Comprehension. Chapter 956, Thorough Comprehension, _ Inside the mysterious space crack, Shiryen couldn't figure out what the time was. He didn't know that time was flying fast. However, he knew that it must have been a long time already. His mood became heavier. He couldn't rest as he didn't want to stay cluelessly in this place without any idea on how to escape. "How long has it been?" Shiryen asked the eccentric man with only a soul sometime in the bubble. That old freak had always been silent. Sometimes, Shiryen thought that he would keep quiet for the rest of his life. If he didn't ask him, that eccentric old man would never notice him. Perhaps he got used to loneliness for hundreds or thousands of years. He had shut himself for a long time already. "How long?" The eccentric soul sighed. "I've been here for several thousand years." "And for you?" "Oh! Since I've dragged you here, it has been 3 years already." "Short time. 3 years is just a blink of an eye. As we all pursue the truth of powers Upanishad, 3 years is just a blink of an eye to us." He answered in a relaxed manner. However, his answer made Shiryen discolor. His heart sank into the abyss. He looked at the old freak with resentment and rage. "You don't care about time, but I care." Shiryen screamed crazily in his mind. Suddenly, he realized that he could do nothing to Old Orchid Star in Far West region. Regardless of what happened to Old Orchid Star, he couldn't help. He couldn't give them any aid. 3 years was enough for Defeng of Blood Halberd and Niger of the Ghostmark clan to destroy Old Orchid Star. If they wanted to do anything, they should have it done by now. Shi Yan was deeply sorrowful and begrudging. He started to worry about his friends in Old Orchid Star. He didn't know whether the Yangs and the Shurs could avoid this calamity or not. He didn't know how many of them, the fellows he had endured many difficulties with to get them out of Grace Mainland, could survive this time. His eyes became brutal. He had a lot of deep resentments towards that old freak. If he hadn't interfered, Shi Yan could have reappeared in a corner of Agate Star area. He could have used the child formation to teleport people and materials of Old Orchid Star, avoiding the massacre from Blood Halberd and Niger. However, it was too late. The grudges he had caused would be repaid by people in Old Orchid Star. Taking a deep breath, he sat down quietly, his eyes chilled. If Old Orchid Star was destroyed when he got out of this place, he would definitely chase and kill anyone who had attacked Old Orchid Star to avenge his friends. As things had escalated to this point, he knew that it was just a waste of effort to think about Old Orchid Star. He decided to put his mind on figuring out how to get out of this damn place. He continued to ask the Eccentric Man about the purpose of this trip. He wanted to know what he should do. However, that freak had concealed everything. Every time he was asked, he just answered with, "I'll tell you when we get there." Shi Yan felt so aggrieved. After he got to know that he wouldn't get the real situation from that man, he didn't think about it any longer. Staying inside the blue bubble, he quieted down, circulating the soul altar to comprehend death and life power Upanishad. From the center of Broken Star Field, he had crossed the Death and Life Bridge, which was the magical inheritance of the Death and Life embedded with great abilities of space power. The transparent handprints had disappeared into his god body, entering the tier of powers Upanishad in his soul altar. At this moment, he sent his soul to the tier of powers Upanishad to explore and comprehend the mighty mysteries of Death and Life power Upanishad. The Powers Upanishad tier was divided into 3 distinct sections, including Space Power Upanishad, Death and Life Power Upanishad, and Star Power Upanishad. These 3 powers Upanishad didn't have real entities, but there were energy fluctuations. When he didn't use the powers, those energy fluctuations would be tiny and almost unrecognizable. His soul flickered and his god body released the Death and Life intent domain, creating a small god domain. Deep inside the tier of powers Upanishad, the section of Death and Life suddenly had strange vibrations. It looked like an airbase movement, but it was actually just energy. Transparent handprints floated, moving in that section. They were the handprints that had entered his body. Those handprints weren't real, as they were just illusions created in his consciousness, which could only perceive through the soul. A transparent handprint could change frequently. It switched between Death and Life energy as if it was projecting the life cycle of Death and Life, rebirth. It seemed like he could see countless creatures, which appeared in that area in their soul form. Living in there for a while, they gradually lost their vitality, coming to the last phase of their lifespans. Eventually, they died. From birth to death, it was just a cycle of earth and heaven. It was the fundamental principle of the world that no force could change. However, it seemed that this cycle in his tier of power Upanishad was slowed down to last for eternity. He could see everything clearly. A creature was born. It thrived as its vitality surged before it gradually ceased. It seemed like any kind of living being would decay, bound to the chains of the mortal world. Those creatures didn't have real forms. Shi Yan just felt them. He could feel some of them die rapidly, and some of them knew how to gather and use energy to slow down their disappearance rate. Although they all vanished in the end, some lived longer than others. In that corner of power Upanishad, he could feel the changes of billions of lives. When a creature disappeared, its soul energy was emitted, returning to earth and heaven. Creature souls were also a kind of earth and heaven energy. They could be strong or weak, and all of them had to die and be reborn. He was just an onlooker. He didn't have the right to join all of these. He could only use his soul to sense quietly. He felt like he was watching a historical movie, looking at all kinds of creatures from the moment they were born to the last minute of their lives. However, he couldn't interfere. This was the essence of power Upanishad that Precursor had imparted to him. That expert seemed to have an unimaginable comprehension of death and life power Upanishad. He could use his power to project deaths of creatures in the world. Although Shuryen also cultivated death and life power Upanishad, he hadn't reached such a level yet. He had a feeling that his precursor could join the life cycle of a creature from birth to death. He seemed to be able to control everything discreetly. Shuryen's eyes brightened as he thought of one possibility. If that precursor could control creatures and their life or death, he could kill them or revive them as he pleased. What kind of existence was that? Could he create creatures? Shuryen was frightened by these thoughts. Creating lives was the restricted area of life that he didn't dare to imagine. From the day he started to cultivate powers Upanishad, he had been in Grace Mainland, Raging Flames Star Area, and now Agate Star Area. Wasn't it true that creatures were born by Mother Nature? Was there any existence that could create lives? If this existence did exist, has it used some kind of unknown, formidable power to create Shuryen himself, the 10 great races in Grace Mainland, and the other peculiar races in Agate Star Area, creating lives and different races? What kind of power was that? It was beyond his imagination. However, since he had observed the life cycle of different creatures in his tier of power Upanishad, he suddenly understood something: creating creatures. It seems to be possible to warriors cultivating death and life power Upanishad. Shuryen didn't know if that precursor had touched this restricted area of life or not. However, he had given him a direction. Shuryen felt that as his precursor had comprehended the death and life power Upanishad to a profound level, he understood some restricted information that the other creatures in the world shouldn't know. He had searched for it, but Shuryen didn't know whether or not he had succeeded. If he succeeded and got the power to create lives, would he be the mighty creator, the source of all creatures? Shuryen was perplexed. The more Shuryen understood the pure power Upanishad that Precursor had left to him, the more he recognized how tremendous it would be when he reached the acme of his power Upanishad. When a warrior cultivated his power Upanishad to the utmost, he could have the deepest understanding of earth and heaven mysteries. Shuryen reviewed the other 2 powers Upanishad he had, space and star. If the death and life power Upanishad had reached to the utmost, it could create lives, races, and forcefully interfere with death and life. But what about space power Upanishad? Frowning, he mulled over this thought while his soul quietly seeped toward the section of space power Upanishad. He suddenly remembered that he was in a space crack. If the death and life power Upanishad could touch the deepest restricted areas, what would it be when space power Upanishad had reached the final line? A picture he had never dared to imagine was slowly revealed in his eyes. He seemed to see a whole new world where his vision and imagination were open to the infinite. Creating a new space. Creating different spaces. These were the best powers he could have imagined. As soon as he had this thought, he became perplexed. Would he be able to create an entire star area and the endless universe inside the space crack he was in? Digging further, he linked the possibilities he had thought with star power Upanishad. Would the warriors also create those stars? As soon as he understood star power Upanishad and learned how a star was created and thrived, he was able to use energy to fabricate and then give it to the origin energy. Would he be able to create a planet that way? If he could add origin energy to that planet, he may also be able to create an ancient continent. His vision and perception of the world had entered a new level from this moment. His soul moved around the 3 sections of power Upanishads to search and comprehend. This was the first time he had tried to touch the deepest levels of his powers. There was no concept of time in the space crack. This time, he had studied his powers for a long time. It was too long that he almost forgot about himself. This lasted until the old freak called him, "Wake up. We're almost there." Shuryen woke up. He looked as if his life form had been sublimated. At this moment, his aura and bearings were also different. Chapter 957. 3 Souls. Chapter 957. 3 souls, _. How long? After Shuryen woke up, he immediately asked the most important question. How much time passed since I sunk into my cultivation? Not long. Just 11 years. The old freak grinned fiendishly. Kid, your innate endowment isn't bad. You can enter the deepest level of Power Upanishad Comprehension. It will help you a lot on your understanding of Powers Upanishad. It will help you understand the origin of a power. Shuryen became distressed, shutting himself out. It has been 11 years. To this monster who had lived tens of thousands of years, 11 years was just a moment. To Shuryen, it was significant. The dust has already settled in Old Orchid Star, right? Shuryen wore a sour face, sighing inaudibly. He hated himself. During this time, he had sunk into a magical intent domain, studying space, star, death, and life powers Upanishads. This kind of study wasn't an application of power, so it couldn't increase his realm significantly. It was like an exploration of the nature of powers and its beginning and ending. He could have his own explanation and unique understanding of the deepest level of his powers, which was the truth of Powers Upanishad. To Shuryen, it was still too early to comprehend the deepest meaning of his powers. However, if he recognized these things earlier, he wouldn't have lost himself on his path in the future. Straying from the path could have led to messing up his cultivation and the collapse of his soul altar in the end. He knew what he got. This kind of benefit couldn't be described with words. Unless he could touch it himself, he couldn't get a good grasp of it even though he had an excellent instructor. Are we almost there? Waking up from his thoughts, Shuryen's eyes brightened as he mumbled to himself. Finally, we are here. We arrived early this time, the eccentric old man whispered. His face was more realistic now. His eyes looked complex and inexplicable. He seemed to sink in his memory, sighing weakly. He looked at Shuryen and said, "Many years ago. I still had a god body and my soul altar wasn't broken. Sigh, I hope I could get what I want this time." As he said that, Shuryen became stern. He sensed danger. This man had been surviving in space cracks for thousands of years. He used to have a god body. What happened to him? What had destroyed his god body and shattered his soul altar? In this space crack, although it had erosive streamers, which was a significant danger to the warriors, as long as they reached a certain level to condense the 4-tiered soul altar, they could survive easily. Their soul altars wouldn't shatter. This man stayed in the space crack and had his soul altar smashed. He must have encountered some danger he couldn't withstand. What could it be? Will I have the same consequence as he did? Shuryen's mood got heavier. Tens of thousands of bubbles in his sight slowly moved forward. It was just what he could see with his limited vision. There were likely countless, similar bubbles in the areas that he couldn't see. Shuryen didn't know what those bubbles were or how many of them presented here. He didn't know where they were heading to either. However, he was sensitive enough to realize that those bubbles were speeding up. It looked like the closer they were to the destination, the force that attracted them got stronger and made them move faster. The other end where the bubbles were heading to should have some kind of energy, which was silently affecting and guiding all of these bubbles to gather at that point. While he was absorbed in his thoughts, the old freak suddenly frowned. He had a gleam of annoyance in his eyes. He cursed, "He's not died yet." Well, if you can survive here, why would I die? Then, a cold voice arose from a distant area. Shuryen discolored slightly. This was the second time he heard someone else talking in this space crack. That voice was as cold as ice. It felt chilly like icy mist shrouding his body, making him irritated. Right after that, he saw a bunch of cold light, which dragged along a big blue bubble and was moving fast towards him. That cold light was just a chunk of cold air. It was a soul of a warrior. However, it didn't generate facial features as it was just a congregated mass of cold air. Inside the blue bubble by that cold light was a woman. An Ice Clan woman. At first glance, Shuryen knew that this woman was from the Ice Clan of Agate Star area. They cultivated ice power Upanishads, so their physique was cold and quiet. They didn't look very different from humans aside from their snow-white skin. It seemed like they were ice skeletons, which made them extremely elegant, chilly, and distant. That woman looked to be around 20. She wore snow-white armor and a phoenix coronet. Her skin was the color of snow that outlined her exquisite, beautiful face. She was long-limbed with a generous bosom. Shavings of cold mist hovered on her arms. The cold light and the woman weren't one person. They were two distinctive living beings. Just like him and the freak. They were souls bringing a person that had a body. That ice woman stood arrogantly inside the blue bubble. Her realm was much higher than his as she got first sky of ethereal god realm. Her face was chilly and her eyes were like two sharp icicles. Her bold brows knitted tightly together. She glared at them, her countenance getting colder. "Oh, you got bad luck, eh? Why do you have a brat at second sky of original god realm? Can he endure this?" The cold light mocked him. "Seems like you'll get nothing this time." The eccentric man who had captured Shiryen couldn't help but snort. His face darkened. He didn't snap back as it would show that he was ashamed of bringing Shiryen with him. He had his difficulties. He got hurt severely last time. He didn't have enough energy to select the candidate. If Shiryen hadn't built the space door at that exact moment, he couldn't have found anyone. Initially, he decided to give up. The moment he sensed Shiryen within his range, he tried to drag him into the space crack. After he retrieved Shiryen, he felt reluctant because Shiryen's realm was too low. He understood that his hope was in vain this time. But he had to try anyway. He didn't have extra energy to find another capable candidate. Although Shiryen was just a byproduct, he could only accept that. Whether Shiryen could help him or not, it was in God's hands. "You found someone from your clan?" The old freak was baffled for a moment. He looked at the ice woman, frowning. Does she know what will happen?" The cold light was silent. The ice woman inside the blue bubble had a pair of calm but icy cold eyes. She said, "It has nothing to do with you." The old man smiled, shaking his head. "Poor child. How about you?" The cold light retorted. "Does the one who you found know what will happen?" "Haha, perhaps he doesn't. Many years ago, we were like them. We were dragged here knowing nothing. Then, we lost our god bodies and our soul altars collapsed. Look at us now." The cold light seemed to ridicule herself. "It has been so many years. Like the reincarnation, we've become the originators. Sigh, it's our fates then." Shiryen's eyes were cold. He looked at the eccentric man. "From what you're discussing, I won't have a decent ending, will I?" "Decent ending?" The old freak laughed oddly. "If you can't succeed in this place, who will have a good ending?" "Kid, don't hate me. I'm going to give you a good encounter. It depends on whether or not you can take it. As you're here, at least you have a chance." "What chance?" Shiryen didn't think he would be grateful for that. He mocked him. "A chance for my god body and soul to vanish." "Well, not necessarily to get your soul vanished. But the best condition you can get is to be like us. Losing your body and shattering your soul altar. You will have only a wisp of your soul remain," said the cold light. Shiryen was filled with cold intent as if he had fallen into an icy chamber. He could feel his temperature lowering. He suddenly understood that nothing good would happen this time. That freak got him here to fulfill something for him. Whether Shiryen could survive or not, the old man wouldn't mind. The cold light and the old man quieted down. They didn't say more as they were waiting for something. The blue bubbles were still drifting. After an unknown period, a massive blue bubble appeared in front of them. It carried a dragon. An evil dragon. That evil dragon was around 2,000 meters long, which reluctantly stuffed him inside the massive bubble. It was struggling to keep every inch of it inside the bubble. It was trying really hard, as if it was really afraid that its limbs could stick outside of the bubble. A dark blue chunk hovered above the dragon's head. It was another soul. The eccentric old man's visage changed. The cold light was also shaken. They were both frightened, looking at the dark blue light above the evil dragon's head. The evil dragon belonged to the monster clan. This tribe had people with the most tenacious, unbreakable bodies among the monster tribes. When he was in Old Orchid Star, Na Exian had found a skull of an evil dragon. Back then, they got so happy. The giant had explained to him its features and how strong the evil dragon was. Thus, at first glance, he knew it was an evil dragon. Observing for a while, he was sure that this dragon was level 12 at least. It could be compared to ethereal god realm. However, its body was much stronger than that of the warrior in the same realm. It seemed like the blue soul hovering above the dragon's head had confined the dragon's soul. The dragon couldn't even release its soul energy. It was always struggling. No matter how hard he tried, he couldn't get rid of the restraint of the blue soul. You can capture an evil dragon. Aren't you afraid that its tribe will find you and take revenge? Asked the old man in astonishment. If they want to find me and take revenge, they have to get in here first, right? If I can get out of here, will I be afraid of the evil dragon's tribe? Arrogant laughter arose from the dark blue light. To capture this lost evil dragon, I've exerted a lot of effort. I must succeed this time. The eccentric old man's face darkened. He glanced at Shiryen, sighing begrudgingly. He knew his chance wasn't great this time. Living beings with real entities were something that could assure their success. The stronger their bodies were, the more significant opportunities they could have. Since the Ice Clan had unique physiques, their bodies were also tenacious. The evil dragons of the Monster Clan were indeed famous existences throughout big star areas thanks to their imposingly tenacious bodies. The Freak Man thought that Shiryen wasn't worth mentioning compared to the Ice Woman and the evil dragon. Chapter 958. Meddle. Chapter 958. Meddle, _ The three distinctive souls were in three different blue bubbles, moving forward quickly. Shiryen, the Ice Woman, and an evil devil were also with them inside a bubble. After a while, the Eccentric Man, the precursor of the Ice Clan, and the man who appeared last discussed using their souls. Then, they used force all of a sudden. Shiryen's and the Ice Woman's bubbles flew fast forward, merging with the massive bubble that carried the evil dragon. Stay put. We're going to arrange something. The old man informed Shiryen and laughed before leaving with the two other souls. Shiryen, the Ice Woman, and the evil dragon were put together inside the massive bubble. The three souls had done something so that Shiryen's bubble stopped drifting away. Different-sized bubbles were still moving around them, heading somewhere ahead while their bubble seemed to get rid of some suction force from the other end. The evil dragon's soul was struggling hard, as if it had been trying to wiggle. However, they didn't know what kind of soul restriction the man who came last had cast on him. No matter how hard the dragon tried to condense its soul energy, it couldn't escape this restraint. Its huge body shivered, wiggling hopelessly. It looked desperate and distressed. Do you know what's going on? Those two didn't have bodies. What's their purpose in bringing us here? Shiryen was cold and stern, asking the Ice Woman right after the other three had left. Shiryen could see that this Ice Woman was obedient to the others. She seemed to know something. Shiryen didn't want to be plotted against. He wanted to know the situation first so that he could strategize against the Freak Man. Unfortunately, the Ice Woman disdained him. Her clear and cold eyes glanced at him once and then turned away. She didn't want to talk to him. A moment later, the Ice Woman flew up, landing on the evil dragon's head. The refined, chilling energy emerged around her body while she was releasing her soul energy, seeping through the dragon's head. She wanted to help the dragon get rid of its restraint. Beads of sweat that sparkled like ice appeared on her snow-white checks, rolling along her slender neck. As she cultivated extremely cold energy, her body was so chilled that even her sweat was frozen right after they appeared. She focused, her face stern and cold. Wisps of cold mist crawled around her body. Currents of ice crystal-like airs emitted from her 10 exquisite fingers, entering the evil dragon's head, inch by inch. The dragon realized her deed. It was surprised and felt hopeful. The two of them urged force at the same time. The massive body of the dragon slowly froze. The powerful cold air covered it entirely. The Ice Woman became more severe. She was constantly releasing energy. She even used the power of her ethereal extent. Beams of light that was as sparkling as icy, spider webs emerged from her glabella, shooting towards the evil dragon. The dragon wiggled. Its mist-covered body made crack, crack sounds. It seemed to consume a lot of energy. All of a sudden, a triangle seal emerged from the evil dragon's head, which carried a massive soul energy fluctuation. The evil dragon looked miserable. Its huge eyes were filled with fear and resentment. The soul energy inside that seal fluctuated sharply, aiming at the dragon. That seal was the ultimate form of restriction used to confine the dragon's soul. The more the dragon wiggled, the brighter the triangle seal became. It looked like 3 blades, which were cutting the dragon's soul and making its massive body shiver and curl in pain. The ice-like, sparkling face of the ice woman paled. Her sweat turned into ice beads. She seemed to have consumed a significant amount of energy. The evil dragon had been struggling for a long time. Gradually, it couldn't resist the pain in the soul anymore. It became hopeless and reluctant. The dragon wanted to give up. The ice woman had cold eyes. She shouted, her voice like the sharp icicles. "If you give up now, we will not have any chance later." As the dragon's soul was restrained, it didn't have the energy to talk. The giant pupils of the dragon showed its distress and pain. It seemed like the seal had blocked its ability to use the soul to communicate. The dragon's situation was much worse than Yan's and the ice woman's. Being shouted at, the devil dragon pulled itself together. They started to urge more energy. The dragon continued to wiggle. The massive body, over 2,000 meters long, had blood trickle from its scales. This was the sign that the monster had forced its energy to the utmost. To get rid of this restraint, the dragon seemed to want to risk its life. The ice woman and the evil dragon seemed to know their destiny. To break this harsh destiny, they were trying to escape the restraint of the 3 souls. However, none of them had informed Yan about anything. They didn't consider Yan as someone in the same place as them, someone who could help. They knew Yan's cultivation base. In their eyes, Yan had only second sky of original God realm. It wasn't worth mentioning. He couldn't help them at all. Thus, they didn't bother explaining to him or acknowledging him with a look. In the blue bubble, Yan frowned, his face dark and cold. He quietly assessed the ice woman and the evil dragon. After a long time, he swiftly glided like the ice woman to reach the dragon. Looking at the woman whose skin was like snow and as beautiful and elegant as a snowflake, he spoke deliberately, "Do you need help?" The evil dragon couldn't see him, but it could hear him. It stopped wiggling for a moment. The ice woman knitted her brows, her cold eyes looking at him. "You can't help us. You just need to stay put. Don't talk, don't disturb or distract us. That's how you can help us." Yan was surprised. Pondering for a while, Yan continued, "You want to help the evil dragon get rid of the soul restraint, right?" The ice woman had a gleam of disdain in her eyes, as if talking to him would affect her concentration. She neither turned around nor answered him and just continued releasing more energy. She was using her soul energy to assist the dragon in resisting the triangle soul seal. The soul seal came from that imposing soul. It was like an inexplicable, magical lock that locked up the dragon's soul. If they wanted to free the dragon, they needed to unlock it or destroy it forcefully. The ice woman and the dragon were using the latter method. They wanted to destroy the seal and free the dragon. Seeing the ice woman and the dragon ignore him, Yan stood at his spot and extended his left hand, placing it on the dragon's head. "Don't meddle, or else we will get the reverse effect." The ice woman shouted ear-splittingly. She turned to him, her eyes like icicles. "If you do something rash, don't blame me for not showing any mercy." The evil dragon wiggled harder. It even sprayed blood from its scales. It looked so worried, as if it wasn't pleased to let Yan, a low-realm expert, meddle in its struggling situation. They all thought that Yan could only disturb the dragon. However, at the moment it was about to stop him, its giant eyes showed its confusion. After 5 seconds, the massive body of the evil dragon shivered as it was very happy. After Yan had put his hand on the dragon's head, she could feel a new, immense vitality moving in the dragon's body. That vitality was dense, carrying the power of earth and heaven and giving a great tonic to the dragon. He was using the ability to give away vitality, which was beyond her common knowledge. Receiving the surging life energy, the tired dragon was boosted up. It roared inaudibly and started to struggle again. Her clear but cold eyes of the ice woman brightened quietly. She nodded, speaking indifferently to Yan. Just pump more life energy. Don't stop. She was bossy, giving orders. She thought that only if Shiryen followed her orders, it would bring luck to the three of them. Shiryen just smiled, not caring about her. However, he did release more vitality to help the dragon recover its energy. Inside a bubble far from them, the arrogant soul suddenly sneered disdainfully. Those three kids are cooperating to help the evil dragon get rid of my restraint. The cold light flashed but kept silent. The eccentric old man who brought Shiryen here shook his head. Just a waste of effort. It's normal that they will struggle. Not everybody is as stupid as the kid you brought here. The soul continued to mock him. Well, the kid you brought here doesn't know what will happen, eh? Haha, it's no use to hide things from him. He is only second sky of original god realm. Can he endure that? You think you can take his god body before he's destroyed? Too dumb. The eccentric man's face darkened. He snorted, I never asked for your opinions. No matter what, I have to try. That kid has a tenacious body. I've tested that. Perhaps he could endure it. Haha, good. I also want to see if you can borrow his body to enter, laughed the arrogant soul. That girl's from your ice clan. She's extraordinary. Her god body has been trained specially. That's a good sapling. Why do you guys want to destroy her? The freak man looked at the cold light. Does she know the situation? She's the sacrifice that my clan has offered me. She knows the meaning of her existence. The ice clan has nurtured her in order to bring her here to help me get in there. The cold light sighed as if it was a little hesitant. What a pity. It doesn't seem like she accepted her fate. Haha, she's giving a hand to help my evil dragon. Sigh, too bad. Too bad she can't do it. The cold light sighed again. Chapter 959. Butcher the chicken with the cattle knife. Chapter 959. Butcher the chicken with the cattle knife. _ The god body of the ice woman had twirling wisps of cold air that sparkled like ice, which then seeped into the evil dragon. The evil dragon was still wiggling, using its energy. Shiryen put one hand on the dragon's head, trying to use the death and life power Upanishad to strengthen the dragon. He continually pumped his surging vitality into the dragon to help it endure. The three of them were trying to break the triangle seal. However, after a long time, the seal wasn't destroyed yet. Gradually, the ice woman couldn't endure using her powers for so long. She sighed tiredly, her eyes dispirited, as if she was already hopeless. Afterward, the evil dragon also stopped. Its eyes reflected its extremely depressed mood. They wanted to give up. Shiryen furrowed his brows. His face became more serious. His mind flickered and crystal divines flew out of his fantasy sky ring. He held them in his hand as he sat down cross-legged on the dragon's head, absorbing the energy from the crystals to refill his energy. The ice woman saw that. She also took out her divine crystals and sat down to recover her energy. The evil dragon stopped moving. It looked numb as the energy in its body slowly calmed down. As the dragon had given up, the triangle seal on its head slowly dimmed out. They didn't talk. After a long time, Shiryen finished refilling and he turned to the ice woman, asking softly, "What happened? That man brought me here. I have no clue what's going on or what this place is. Can you tell me?" The ice woman used to disdain him. However, her attitude was a little better at this moment since she thought that he was somehow useful. She answered indifferently, "We will all die." Shiryen nodded. He wasn't so surprised. Those three souls mean to harm us. I know it. I just want to know what they can do. They need a body to enter the place they want to go to. But they all don't have bodies. We're their flesh containers. The moment we get in there, they will possess our bodies. Before our bodies have been smashed down, they will get into a certain place. The ice woman sighed, speaking reluctantly. In the best scenario, we will lose our bodies and our soul altars will break. However, we can still be alive with a wisp of a soul, just like they are now. If we are unlucky, we won't even have a wisp of a soul remaining. We will perish entirely. Shiryen changed his visage. The evil dragon wiggled, looking ahead of them as if it wanted to intervene something. However, its soul was restrained so it couldn't join Shiryen and the Ice Woman's discussion. The dragon writhed. Not even a small chance? Shiryen pondered for a while, asking the second time. If he can get rid of the restraint, perhaps we can find a way to survive when we join hands. But I'm afraid it will be tough, said that Ice Woman with a distressed countenance. Shiryen was grim, taking a deep breath. He looked at the evil dragon underneath, whispering, "Let me give it a try, okay?" The Ice Woman was surprised. She studied him for a while and then said, "You wanna try? You have only second sky of original God realm. What can you do?" "We always try. If I can't, we will discuss then." Shiryen smiled casually. While she was gazing at him, he extended his hand and put it on the dragon's head. The Ice Woman wore a stern face, watching him. This time, Shiryen didn't give more life energy to the evil dragon. He was releasing a soul fluctuation. A wisp of refined soul flew out of his hand, entering the dragon's head. He immediately felt the formidable soul fluctuation of the evil dragon. Different from many races, monsters didn't have soul altars and their souls didn't hover above the sea of consciousness. These had different methods of cultivating. They seemed to focus on quenching their bodies. The evil dragon didn't have a soul altar inside its head. It had only a huge chunk of soul energy. It looked like an opaque ball moving continually. At this moment, that soul ball didn't spin as a triangle seal tied it down. That seal was the restraining energy, binding the evil dragon's soul, which prevented it from controlling its body. It couldn't even talk. When Shiryen's soul got inside the dragon's head, the dim triangle seal glowed. A flow of strong backlash energy was generated from the seal. It followed and attacked Shiryen's soul as if it had eyes. His sea of consciousness was hurt. Shiryen's eyes became colder. "Burn!" he hissed, and the power of the soul consciousness he had sent away changed. It was now a space blade that wanted to smash the seal into pieces. Sizzle! 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 The soul energy that flew out from the triangle seal suddenly divided and multiplied like countless spider webs. It didn't attack Shiryen, but it silently entered the evil dragon's soul. It seemed that the spider thread-like soul had its own consciousness, even though it was tied to the master and manipulated continuously. The meaning of that seal to exist was to only confine the evil dragon's soul. It didn't want to spend energy on anything else. Shiryen frowned. He understood this was a bit tricky to deal with. If he wanted to destroy that seal, he had to enter the dragon's soul. That seal was moving constantly, which made it hard to break. Shiryen's soul consciousness with space power could damage the evil dragon's soul if he was careless. It was possible that he may grind the dragon's soul into pieces before he broke the seal. That was not what he wanted to see. Shiryen contemplated. "It's complicated and annoyed, indeed," said the Ice Woman. "It's hard to use our soul energy to help it out. Only the dragon can free itself. That was why I've used icy energy to try to freeze that seal." Shiryen nodded. "Yeah, it's tough though. That man's ream is profound enough, and so is his understanding of power Upanishad. The barrier he has cast is interlinked with his mind, so it isn't still." Sigh. The Ice Woman sighed, looking at him with complex eyes. She thought he had wasted his efforts. She then sank into silence. Shiryen hadn't stopped here. He was thinking of a possible solution. After a while, his eyes brightened as an idea rose in his mind. In the next moment, his other soul quietly changed in his sea of consciousness. The soul created by the Origin and Heaven Flames of Grace mainland had turned into a scorching flame, burning fiercely. The result of the Heaven Flames and Origin's fusion was that they became part of his soul. The characteristics of the Heaven Flames were also his soul's. He could control them and switch them as he pleased. When he thought something in his mind, his soul would change accordingly. That soul was now the combination of the Vermilion True Bird Flame, Purgatory True Flame, and Earth Flame with the feature of high temperatures and extreme yang. That soul of his was like a burning sun. The change of his other soul created the change in his body. At that moment, his body became terrifyingly burning red. The Ice Woman was standing not far from him. She hated that heat. She furrowed her bold brows, instinctively staying away from Shiryen. Shiryen didn't mind her. He just continued to boost more energy. His flaming soul sent a wisp of blazing energy which was shrouded by a thin layer. It then carefully flew towards the dragon's soul. As the evil dragon could sense something terrible, it struggled violently. A deep fear sparkled in its huge eyes. However, that flow of flame didn't threaten the dragon's soul after it had gotten in. The thin layer covering it seemed to be able to seal the heat of the flame within, preventing the terrifying heat from getting released. However, that aura was still very imposing. It made the dragon shake continually. Its nerves were tense as if it was afraid that the flame would burn it into ashes in any minute. The seal stayed hidden deep inside the evil dragon's soul. It could sense the danger right when Shiryen's flaming soul consciousness got in. It moved swiftly like an electric spear between the corners of the dragon's soul. Shiryen grinned faintly. As that seal was afraid of his soul consciousness, it meant that he could actually damage that seal with his powers. That seal must be formed by the power Upanishad and the soul energy of that arrogant soul. As soon as he burned it down, the other would be damaged too. The soul seal was continually moving and dodging. Shiryen wasn't impatient and he simply increased his heating energy. Gradually, a fire sea had covered the dragon's soul completely. However, this fire sea had a thin membrane created by the origin energy, which prevented it from burning the evil dragon's soul. The seal hiding inside the dragon's soul could feel something wrong at this moment. Without any hesitation, it seized the chance to fly out of the dragon's soul, trying to escape. Swish! A bunch of light flew away from the dragon's eye, fleeing as fast as possible. Shiryen contemplated for a while, his face malicious, touching his glabella. Swoosh! Blazing flames flew out hastily, aimed at that bunch of light. Right after that, the fiery energy was released immediately. Sizzle! 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 The fleeing bunch of life dissolved quickly, burned into sparks and scattered away. The soul energy in it vanished. The restrained evil dragon suddenly roared. Its massive body shook, drawing a graceful curve in the void. The light of Meddle sparkled in its horns as energy circulated in its body once again. The ice woman looked at Shiryen with fear. She quietly lengthened the distance between herself and Shiryen. She hated the heat from Shiryen's body. The Ice Clan stayed in extremely cold areas, so none of them enjoyed the heat. To them, the chilliest areas were the places that could progress their power Upanishad fast the most. They instinctively hated light and heat. Not good. The Ice Woman seemed to remember something. The soul restrained was cast by that arrogant soul. You burned his restraint. They must know what we are doing. Actually, Shiryen was hesitant at that moment, but he still burned it down eventually. He was calm when he spoke. Those three aren't good people. We don't need to retrain ourselves. If we can hurt them as much as possible, we can have a greater chance to survive. That damn old man. He dared to cast the soul restriction on me. McGee will make him pay big for this. After the evil dragon moved again, he roared and thundered inside the blue bubble. His aura was terrifying. I won't spare him. Chapter 960. Evil Dragon McGee. Chapter 960. Evil Dragon McGee, _ The space crack where streamers moved had a place where lights congregated. It was a giant blue bubble as large as an entire life star. That bubble was massive. It had countless flaming streamers gathering. Bubbles that came from everywhere disappeared into that big blue bubble. This place seemed to be one end of this chaotic space basin. The three souls also stopped here. Then, the arrogant soul shook violently as if he was severely hit. Gradually, the face he generated turned ferocious. He cursed, "Damn it. They expelled my soul restriction and even burned it down." The cold light twisted for a while before turning into a cold, human face that frowned at him. "Didn't you say that the evil dragon couldn't get rid of it?" The eccentric old man who had brought Shiryen also changed his face. "Seems like the situation has changed. I didn't expect any unexpected event to happen at this moment." "It was your man," roared the arrogant soul. "Carlos, does the kid you brought cultivate firepower Upanishad?" "No, it's not true. His fire has the aura of heaven flames. He fused with the origin. F***CK. Carlos, why didn't you remind me about that? The man called Carlos was the soul that had dragged Shiryen to this place. His face darkened shortly after. Heaven Flames? That kid has fused with Heaven Flames. Damn it. Ibaka, what should we do now? The stern face condensed by cold light looked at the arrogant soul and spoke. Ibaka, how did you get that evil dragon? Can you direct the evil dragon tribe here? As he mentioned the evil dragon tribe, the three souls' faces darkened. They all knew how dangerous the evil dragon tribe was. Evil dragon tribe, the haughty Ibaka became serious. He contemplated for a while and then shook his head. I think not. Kristen, you're a superior of the Ice Clan. Your Ice Clan was always strong and you live not far from the evil dragon tribe. Is that tribe so dangerous to deal with? Among the three souls, the one who brought Shiryen here was called Carlos, the ice expert was called Kristen, and the haughty soul's name was Ibaka. They were all experts from Agate Star area. They were at peak of ethereal god realm, just one step away from incipient god realm. Today, they gathered for one thing that could help them walk through this threshold to enter incipient god realm. It also could help them rebuild their soul altars. Kristen used to be a famous sage of the Ice Clan. His power Upanishad was exquisite. He had quickly reached ethereal god realm. He came here to find an opportunity to enter incipient god realm. In Agate Star area, the Ice Clan stayed not far from the evil dragon tribe. They knew the situation of the evil dragon tribe well enough. When Ibaka rose this issue, Carlos also looked at Kristen, the one who used to be a precursor of the Ice Clan. Kristen frowned deeply. In our Agate Star area, the Monster Clan was always strong. The evil dragon tribe was the pillar of the Monster Clan. They're the best fighters of the Monster Clan. Since our Ice Clan lives not far from the evil dragon tribe, we don't want to cause any grudge against this powerful tribe. The evil dragon tribe likes to cover their members' mistakes. They will seek revenge for even the most minor grudges. If they know that you capture their member, they will never spare you. Ibaka listened to him, his face ferocious. Wait until I've reached incipient god realm. I won't be afraid of them. We can't let them escape at any cost, Ibaka hissed, or else none of us can dodge the flame of anger of the evil dragon tribe. Can they get out of this place? Carlos laughed evilly. Although the brat I brought cultivates space power Upanishad, unless he finds the space crack mouth, he will stay here forever. Pausing for a while, he continued, just ignore them for now. After we finished our preparation, we'll capture them. Kristen nodded, trying to comfort the others. Ibaka, soul consciousness can't detect this place. Even if we kill that little evil dragon, no one will know it. Yeah, we just need to kill all who are involved. When we return to Agate Star area in the future, the evil dragon tribe won't figure out a thing. Listen to Kristen and Carlos, Ibaka smiled. Yeah, it's true. We should finish our business first. The three souls immediately got back to their work. They floated outside the massive blue bubble, gathering more bubbles. They shrank the gigantic bubbles and made them merge with the biggest one. Sizzle, sizzle, sizzle. Blue electric strikes shot out from the bubbles, gathering the small bubbles that the three souls had condensed. Gradually, under their powers, blue crystals were generated. They pulled the crystals out, making them float by their souls. Those blue crystals were synthesized by some energy inside the massive blue bubble. They must have some special effects. After the three of them had condensed around 11 blue crystals, their soul energy fluctuated tiredly as if they had consumed a lot of energy. Almost done, Ibaka spoke first, his face malignant. Go. We can drag those juniors here. Kristen and Carlos also stopped, looking at the floating blue crystals contentedly. They returned with Ibaka to find Shiryen and the other two. Dash! Evil Dragon McGee shouted crazily for a while and then ceased. His massive body wiggled before shrinking, turning into a rough, young man. Shiryen was a little surprised. He looked at the dragon transform into a humanoid form. He knew that the dragon had finished. Members of the Monster Clan were able to transform into human forms after they had reached a specific realm or level. After McGee finished his transformation, he happily flew towards Shiryen, patting his shoulder. You're excellent. You freed me from this soul restraint. Not bad. Not bad. McGee always appreciates favors. When you come to the evil dragon tribe's territory, I will treat you well. He didn't speak to the ice woman. The ice woman furrowed her bold brows, looking at Shiryen and McGee talking. She was a bit impatient. Shouldn't we think about what to do next? The other three won't let us go easily. Perhaps they're coming here already. Shiryen and evil dragon McGee stopped talking and laughing as they heard her. They became stern. Those three are much more familiar with this place. If we fight them here, we won't have any advantages. McGee snorted. His eyes had some sparks of flames. I've tried. From the day I met that man, I've always been struggling hard. I'm not his equal opponent. He knows that I won't follow him. That was why he restrained my soul to prevent me from troubling him more. Pausing for a while, he looked at Shiryen and the ice woman. He said, "How about you? Are you sure you can defeat them?" The beautiful, snow-white face of the ice woman twitched as she sighed reluctantly. I'm not like you guys. I came here intentionally. Shiryen and McGee were skeptical. That man used to be the pride of our ice clan. He reached ethereal god realm pretty early. To enter incipient god realm, he came here. I don't know what is good about this place nor what could help him enter incipient god realm. However, I'm the sacrifice that our clan seniors have sent to him. They want to have an incipient god realm expert for the ice clan. I'm just a supporting rock for his breakthrough, said the ice woman with a lonesome face. I know him. Kristen, right? I've heard of him before. McGee nodded. Our evil dragon tribe lives not far from the ice clan. We know you're experts. Kristen has disappeared for many years. I didn't think that I would meet him here. I used to hear about you too. The ice woman looked at McGee. You're the last son of the evil dragon tribe's patriarch. You're haughty, indeed. You like to swagger around and bully people. Nothing said about you is good. McGee looked embarrassed. He opened his hands, explaining to Shiryen. The ice clan and our tribe are somehow opponents. This is how they've tried to insult and shame me. I have a good reputation. Dude, don't listen to this woman. Shiryen smiled and nodded. It's all right. I don't care whether you have a good reputation or not. I just want to see if any of you guys have a plan to get out of here. As long as you can find me the entrance, I can bring us out of this place. McGee and the ice woman's eyes brightened, looking at him suspiciously. I cultivate space power Upanishad, Shiryen smiled and explained. McGee and the ice woman were shaken. I know how to get in here. I know the direction. McGee said, first, follow me. I'm taking you to the entrance. Then, McGee flew to the area behind them. His body moved like a flood dragon, breaking the blue barrier. He flew fast as if he wasn't afraid of anything in this chaotic space basin, not even the erosive power of the space streamers. The ice woman hesitated for a while. Eventually, she urged her power, froze her body, and flew away from the bubble. Shiryen followed them. McGee was a monster. It was a member of the evil dragon who was famous for their extraordinary tenacious bodies. The space streamer struck his body like thousands of electric spears. However, he seemed to not be affected. He just continued moving like a lightning strike. The ice woman had frozen her body. Even though she was now an ice sculpture, she was still able to move swiftly between the dangerous streamers. Shiryen frowned. He knew McGee and the ice woman were from clans which were famous for their intimidating bodies. It seemed like that woman had quenched her body using some secret technique to adapt to this space. Hovering in between the space streamers, Shiryen had to use his energy continuously to resist. Where are you hiding? Not long afterward, Ibaka roared behind them. That brat who attacked me. I want to draw your origin to heal my soul. Go die. The three souls appeared behind them, moving like three spooky ghosts and approaching them from three different angles. Chapter 961, Inexorable Doom. Chapter 961, Inexorable Doom, __. Ikaba, Kristen, and Carlos had almost stopped Shiryen's team at the same time from three different directions. They didn't look friendly at all. Shiryen had his face darkened. According to the Ice Woman, the three of them had reached the peak of ethereal god realm. They were just one step away from the incipient god realm. That was why they came here. The three of them were quite familiar with the situation in this area. At the same time, as they were in the soul form, the chaotic currents in the space basin didn't affect them. They wanted to use the perilous features of this area to attack Shiryan and his partners. Even if Shiryan's team risked their lives, they wouldn't have a chance to win. Shiryan gradually got his mind to turn calm. He looked at the three of them as electric lights sparkled in his mind. If he could cause a dispute between the three of them, making them attack each other, perhaps he would have a way out. However, to the other three, they were just the keys to enter someplace, and their bodies were the essential element for them to get to that place. Before they could get into that mysterious place, the three souls wouldn't attack each other. It wasn't a good idea to raise a conflict between them. Shiryan thought seriously, forcing himself to be lucid. He couldn't help but look at Ibaka. Pondering for seconds, he smiled, talking to Carlos, the soul that brought him here. I've fused with the origin. It's a part of my soul now. Without the origin, my soul altar will break. And without a soul altar, I have only a skeleton left. Pausing for a while, he continued, Is it useful for you if I only have a corpse? Hearing him, Carlos slightly changed his face. He contemplated, talking to Ibaka, I want to use him to enter that place. You can't hurt him. Ibaka snorted, his eyes wicked. This brat used heaven flames to hurt my soul. Carlos, do you want to protect him? You have the evil dragon, and Kristen has his sacrifice. What do I have? Carlos nodded, I want to use him to get in there. You won't destroy him, will you? If you want to do that, I won't just let you attack him. Ibaka wore a harsh face, looking at Shiryan and then at Carlos. He gritted his teeth, grinning. All right, Carlos. I'll give you face this time. Carlos nodded, saying nothing else. Ibaka sneered, aiming at McGee. A triangular soul seal emerged from his eyes on the face he had condensed with clear facial features. A blue crystal shot out of his soul, sparkling with a strange light. It looked magically powerful amidst the chaotic space current. The soul seal suddenly enlarged, pressing down on the evil dragon. Evil dragon McGee in his human form had flames in his eyes. His indignant roar shook the sky. You dare provoke me many times. You're challenging our evil dragon tribe to life or death. My father will never spare you. While McGee was shouting, his body enlarged, turning back to his monster form. His energy shot out like light dots, trying to resist. Too bad for him, Ikaba was quite familiar with this place. He knew how to subdue the dragon. The soul seal he created could combine with the erosive power of the chaotic space current. It pressed down, restraining the dragon's soul for the second time. Shiryan and the Ice Woman had spent a lot of efforts to free evil dragon McGee's soul. And now, what they had done was just in vain. McGee quieted down immediately. Just like the first time they saw him, he looked helpless, unable to even talk. Afterward, Ibaka laughed evilly. I know the evil dragon tribe's powerful, but so what? Can they get here and chase after me? Wait until I've reached the incipient god realm. What can the evil dragon tribe do to me then? The agate star area is vast enough anyways. He seemed unafraid of the evil dragon tribe. Carlos also sneered, talking to Shiryan. Kid, you shouldn't do that again. Or else, I'll confine you myself. Kristen, the Ice Clan's precursor, moved to the Ice Woman. He looked at her with his dark, cold eyes, talking deliberately. The clan has chosen you and sent you here to help me. It's all right that you're not willing to cooperate. However, our clan has its plans. If we can have one more incipient god realm expert, our future will be brighter and smoother. For the welfare of our clan, I won't feel guilty about sacrificing you. The cold and clear eyes of the Ice Woman had a gleam of sorrow. She didn't say anything, just standing idly like a puppet. She looked pitiful and bitter. She struggled, but couldn't escape her fate. The Ice Woman felt low, tears trickling down her cheeks. A wisp of sorrowful intent swirled around her. Kristen frowned as he felt a little bit reluctant. They were from the same clan. He knew this girl's natural endowment wasn't bad. She had gotten special training from the clan to be his sacrifice. She was designed to help him enter the incipient god realm. Go, Kristen sighed, releasing a cold thought. An unknown force pulled the ice woman, flying away. Ibaka kept smiling faintly. His soul floated above the evil dragon's head, dragging it towards the area they had prepared previously. Carlos looked at Shiryen. Shiryen sighed, then nodded reluctantly. I know what to do. You don't need to urge me. Then, he flew after the ice woman and the evil dragon, moving to their destination. Kristen laughed evilly and eccentrically. Well, so you know your place. 3 souls and 3 bodies slowly moved through the streamers, heading to the biggest blue bubble. On the way, the 3 souls often discussed, but they didn't mind Shiryen and the other 2. Shiryen didn't talk or ask about the features of this area. Sometimes, he exchanged looks with McGee. He could tell that the latter wasn't willing. He had signaled Shiryen to find a chance to help him. The ice woman seemed to have given up. Shiryen had signaled to her several times, but she didn't reply. Perhaps she thought that they couldn't do anything. For the sake of her clan, she decided to follow Kristen and help him reach the incipient god realm. Shiryen was indifferent. Although it looked like he had done things in vain to release McGee, he did harvest something. He knew what he would encounter. McGee and the ice woman had recognized his performance. They thought he could be of help now. On the way to their target, Shiryen had always been contemplating. He pondered what he should do next. He could confirm one thing: Carlos would take his body to enter someplace. He would let his soul enter Shiryen's head. Then, using Shiryen's body, he could dodge some kinds of attacks. In other words, before that event, Shiryen and Carlos would combat in the former's sea of consciousness. Shiryen looked natural, but he was chilled, discreetly waiting for the right chance. After an unknown time, the 6 strange existences arrived by a massive bubble, which was as big as an entire life star. It had a powerful suction force. The rainbow streamers of the chaotic space current and different-sized bubbles were congregating at that biggest blue bubble, becoming a part of it. Kristen and the other 2 halted outside the bubble, waiting for something in silence. Shiryen, the ice woman, and the evil dragon were watched by 3 different souls. They floated in different corners of the place, looking at the big blue bubble, as Shiryen silently released his soul consciousness. Sizzle! His wisp of soul consciousness scattered as if it got electrocuted right when it touched the blue bubble. His soul consciousness vanished, causing Shiryen's expression to change thinking. He couldn't help but observe the 3 souls. This planet-sized bubble had electric beams moving around, which were powerful and intimidating enough to crush all energies and souls without a tangible entity. In other words, those 3 souls couldn't get inside the bubble with their powers. Shiryen now knew why the 3 souls had to capture the strong creatures with a tenacious body. They needed the key to enter the bubble. He couldn't help but look at Kristen, Ibaka, and Carlos. He knew what he had to deal with. The 3 souls didn't act impetuously. They were waiting for something in silence. It seemed their chance hadn't come yet. The bubble became bigger from time to time, just like it had thousands of streams congregating into the vast sea. Silently, many brilliant streamers descended from the sky like long rivers, disappearing into the bubble. Together, they created a strikingly magnificent space. After a long time, space currents and bubbles getting into the big bubble became less. Not so many bubbles appeared at the end. Eventually, no more bubbles arrived. The streamers gathering seemed to have been cut off. They exploded like fireworks, shooting everywhere. The biggest, most beautiful bubble changed slowly. An infinite number of ice blue electric beams sparkled, moving like snakes. They created an unknown natural barrier that could destroy everything coming near to the bubble. Almost. At this moment, Carlos hissed. His eyes became excited as if he had been waiting for this moment for so many years. Kristen and Ibaka were also thrilled. It looked like a door of hope slowly opened in front of their eyes. They just needed to cross that door to enter a whole new world, the incipient god realm. The 3 faces created by 3 different souls were now gazing at their praise. Shiryen and the others became cold and stern under their gazes. They felt extremely insecure, as if their lives were coming to an end. The other three looked so excited, as though Shiryan's group were ready sacrifices whose blood and flesh were needed by them to get the recognition of the mighty heaven. Wahahaha. The three souls laughed evilly while dashing out, heading towards Shiryan, McGee, and the Ice Woman. They wanted to enter their prey's sea of consciousness and take control of the body. Chapter 962, Soul Changing. Chapter 962, Soul Changing, __. The three souls moved swiftly. At that moment, Shiryan, McGee, and the Ice Woman faced a huge trouble as the three souls brutally entered their body. Carlos directly intruded Shiryan's sea of consciousness, occupying his soul altar. He then released a wisp of origin energy, tempting the soul. Shiryan seemed to have been struck by a lethal hit. He felt like his soul was cut into many pieces, almost scattering into nothingness. He lost the control of his god body immediately. At this moment, Carlos got the control of Shiryan's god body, using his thought to manipulate it. He urged Shiryan's body to move towards that blue bubble. At the same time, Evil Dragon McGee and the Ice Woman were also invaded. Ibaka and Kristen got control of their body instantly. They then manipulated the other's god body, thrusting into the bubble. Sizzle! 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 Countless electric beams entangled their bodies when Shiryan, McGee, and the Ice Woman got through the membrane of the blue bubble. The electric beams entered their body through their skin, veins, and bones. Pain flooded them. It felt like tens of thousands of steel needles were pricking him at the same time. Shiryan shivered as his skin was melted. The electric beams had crushed his flesh and energy. McGee and the Ice Woman also screeched the moment they got through the membrane. They felt so much pain, as if someone was tearing their intestines. Beams of hazy blue electricity entered their body, destroying their energy and flesh on a large scale. It was much powerful and lethal than the erosive power of the chaotic space currents. This kind of pain that was hard to endure had almost broken Shiryan's soul. His body was enduring a pain as though it was burned, making his soul anxious. He couldn't resist Carlos sufficiently, letting him control his god body wholly. Oh! After Carlos entered Shiryan's head, he screamed in astonishment. He observed Shiryan's soul altar, his face getting stern. Different from the other warriors, Shiryan's soul altar also had 3 tiers, but it was marvelous. Floating above the sea consciousness, his soul altar was divided into 3 sections, including the black hole, the heaven flames, and the powers Upanishad. Above the tier of powers Upanishad and heaven flames floated 2 souls. 2 souls. Carlos's eyes were cold and dark. He felt a bit frightened as he had discovered Shiryan's secrets. He gazed at the 2 souls. Kid, what's happened to your soul altar? You've cultivated many powers Upanishad, and you have 2 souls. What are you? Carlos felt something had gone wrong. He knew he had caused grudges against someone he shouldn't have provoked. Shiryan wasn't free to mind him. A pain just like his heart being drilled was expanding in his entire body. He was shivering as his blood and flesh shattered. Those intimidating blue electric beams were eroding his entire vigorous body. The god body he was proud of couldn't endure this harsh attack. After Carlos had gotten over his fright as he shrilled in astonishment. Good. Good. My time's come. Shiryan and the other 2 didn't know how fatal the bubble's outer membrane with the blue electric beams weaving on it were. But Carlos knew about them. That year, Carlos had tried to enter this bubble. He couldn't resist the formidable energy of those blue electric beams. After 10 days, his body was eroded, vanishing into nothingness. At this moment, Shiryan's body was being dissolved. However, this speed was much slower than what he had imagined. Carlos' eyes brightened. He could see hope. Carlos had thought that Shiryan was only at the 2nd sky of original God realm, so he wouldn't be able to bring the former inside. As Carlos wasn't so sure, he had always been worried. But now, at this moment, Shiryan's tenacious body was much more than what he had expected. This body was strong enough to resist until they got to the center of the bubble. Carlos was so happy he had almost cracked up. Staying inside Shurian's sea of consciousness, Carlos couldn't help but watch McGee and the Ice Woman. McGee of the evil dragon tribe could make it. Although its massive body was hurt severely under the electric beams, and its scales fell off, its body hadn't been eroded yet. However, the Ice Woman couldn't endure it anymore. She was a bloody figure shortly after getting in contact. They could even see her crystalline bones. Until now, even Shurian's body was damaged, though his skeleton was still all right. Apparently, he possessed an endless potential. Carlos laughed crazily. He had thought that this kid he had just brought here because he had no other choice around couldn't help him much. Who would have thought that he had picked up a treasure? If it kept going this way, he could even achieve his target. While Carlos was still excited, he found that the Ice Woman's almost doomed. Her ice crystal-like skeleton was almost melted all. Swoosh, swoosh, swoosh. The Ice Woman suddenly moved, gliding toward Carlos. Carlos darkened his face while staying inside Shurian's sea of consciousness. He could guess Kristen's plan. With cold eyes, he started to gather soul energy in Shurian's sea of consciousness to prevent Kristen from getting in. Kristen knew that this sacrifice from the Ice Clan wasn't enough to aid him to get what he wanted. Seeing Shurian's tenacious body, he had another plan. He wanted to share Shurian's body with Carlos. If he hid his soul in Shurian's body, he could get to that place. Swoosh! A cold light flew out, entering Shurian's body like an icicle. Carlos couldn't help but grin coldly inside Shurian's sea of consciousness. The surging soul energy condensed a barrier in Shurian's skull, preventing Kristen from entering. The two of them used to cooperate well. But now, they attacked each other at the critical moment. Boom! 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 After Kristen flew out, the Ice Woman's body exploded. It turned into nothingness in this world of blue electric beams. A soul altar emerged. It was the Ice Woman. Right after her soul appeared, it got hit. Just like a beautiful firework, her soul turned into smoke, vanishing completely. She was over. "Let me in," Kristen roared angrily. The ice blue crystals covered his soul, moving around him. These crystals could prevent the electric beams from corroding his soul. He had condensed those ice blue crystals to resist the electric beams in this place for a short while. But they couldn't give a long-lasting protection. Kristen was hurried. He knew he would be doomed if he exposed himself for a long time. As Carlos and Kristen were at the same realm and not much different in terms of competence, they understood the dangers of this place. Carlos had soon set up a soul barrier in Shurian's skull. He successfully stopped Kristen from entering Shurian's head. While he was still screaming, Kristen's spinning blue crystals were slowly dissolved. The energy in the crystals was draining, and they could only resist for a short moment. "Kristen, you go find Ibaka's flesh host. That evil dragon strong enough to bear the two of you at the same time." Carlos objected fiercely. "This kid can endure only me alone. Don't mess up with me. Otherwise, don't blame me." "Would Ibaka let me in?" Kristen shouted. "I'm too far from him. I don't have enough time. Let me in, quick." "Get lost," Carlos thundered. "I'll risk my life with you." The cold light gathered its sharp energy like an icicle, shooting towards Shurian's skull. "You mother****, you'll break his soul," Carlos shouted, his face worried. At the moment he was confronting Kristen, his control of Shurian's soul weakened a little bit. Shurian's consciousness had been confined, losing his control of the god body. He could only stare at his body being eroded little by little. He was worried, as if he had a flame burning his heart. As Kristen appeared, the pressure he had to bear was reduced. His soul could get the control of his body back. Although the energy that bound his soul had halted for a moment, this moment was enough for him to do many things. Arg! Inside the terrifying area of the bubble's membrane, Shurian roared like an enraged wild beast, forcefully urging the immortal demon blood. Drops of dark red blood that looked like jewels burned like a fiery flame, flowing through his god body. An extreme, surging energy flooded his body instantly. His god body turned into a mess of torn flesh and blood, releasing sounds like firecrackers. His veins bulged like snakes under his skin. Each muscle of his was like an erupting volcano. Energy surged powerfully in his body, rocketing his energy to an unimaginable level. As his body was still transforming into the perfect form of the immortal demon tribe, energy ran unceasingly deep inside his head. At this moment, he touched his forehead. Sizzle! His other soul changed all of a sudden, turning into a scorching flame. The formidable heating energy increased without limits, aiming at Carlos. It was the pure heaven flame generated by the origin, which could burn down any creature. In his sea of consciousness, except for himself, everyone else would be a target. When the binding that tied his soul was lifted, Yan could control his body as he pleased. His eyes became garnet, and the blood-red halo glowed on the mark on his soul's forehead. That kind of red light rippled, expanding like water waves. Carlos felt like he was encountering a spooky ghost in this place. He was so uneasy and baffled, looking at the fire sea snatching over him and the red halo coming closer. He didn't know why he was so panic-stricken. He felt the extreme fear deep in his soul. He knew that the fire sea and the blood-red light were enough to extinguish him. This kind of threat was much more terrifying than the blue electric beams out there. Carlos' soul in Yan's sea of consciousness screeched. He didn't dare to try to face the attacks from the soul-destroying powers. He ran away from Yan's brain as fast as possible. Swish! Carlos flew out, full of fear and uneasy feelings. In the next moment, he found that the barrier he had set up in Yan's skull, the one that was supposed to block out Kristen, was swept away completely. He was so scared, his eyes reflecting his extreme fright. He looked at Yan disbelievingly. He felt that he had brought a hungry wolf from outer space to this place. Chapter 963, Expel. Chapter 963, Expel, __. Carlos escaped from Yan's god body. He was so worried and uneasy. The ice-blue crystals surrounding his soul gradually cracked. Blue electric beams struck over like snakes, trying to intrude his soul. Just like Kristen, Carlos had no place to go. The two souls surrounded Yan, preparing to attack his soul and occupy his body. What happened? What are you doing? Kristen communicated with him via soul messaging. You had subdued his soul. Why did you fly out? You mother f*** cur. It's because of you. Carlos thundered. If you didn't mess things up, how could that kid get rid of my soul bind? Now we're over. None of us can get in there again. While the two souls were communicating, more blue electric beams shot towards them. They were as big as ropes, slowly tying their souls up. Their blue crystals couldn't help it anymore. They could explode at any moment. That blue crystals needed a flesh body to promote its effect the most. Without a body to protect the crystals when they were exposed, they couldn't resist for a long time. Carlos was afraid of Yan. He pondered, then said, I've just used up a lot of energy. I need a break. You go for it. You intrude his sea of consciousness. As long as you can subdue his soul, we can take over his body. Carlos didn't know how strong Yan was, but he did know that Yan's soul was somehow marvelous. The energy released by the latter's soul had terrified him badly. He wanted Kristen to scout out Yan's special powers. Kristen didn't doubt him. He figured that the other had really consumed a lot of his soul energy. As he didn't know how Yan's soul was, he hesitated for a while before forcefully entering Yan's sea of consciousness. Kristen made up his mind. He immediately turned into a bunch of cold light, aiming at Yan's forehead and trying to get into his sea of consciousness. Boom, boom, boom. Yan's god body had the cracking resounding from his bones. Under the power of the immortal demon blood, his damaged flesh and vessels were healed. A garnet halo glowed from his body. Under the effect of the immortal demon blood, his god body transformed quickly. Sharp and pointy barbs emerged from Yan's shoulders, elbows, and knees. They jutted out as if they grew directly from his bones, giving him a ferocious look. His transformation was aimed towards the perfect form of warriors of the immortal demon tribe, and his blood chi became thicker in his body. Blood chi and essence chi were surging inside Yan, which both threatened and thrilled Kristen. He suddenly recognized that with this level of intensity, Shiryan's body could hold both Carlos and himself to get into the center of the bubble. Kristen didn't hesitate anymore. Swoosh! A big beam of cold light with the icy aura drilled into Shiryan's glabella, trying to get into his sea of consciousness. Sizzle! 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 Scarlet flames burst out of Shiryan's eyes, covering his face. As soon as Kristen touched this flame, he faced a lethal attack. His soul energy was melted, dissolving rapidly. The mournful screeching arose from deep inside his soul. Kristen's cold and stern face became blurry, as if making clear facial features was now really difficult for him. It was just a short moment, but Kristen was hurt severely, which had even affected his soul's foundation. At this moment, there was no chaotic current of space energy. Kristen and Carlos couldn't use external forces to attack Shiryan. They could only use their soul energy. The two of them were powerful existences which were just half a step away from the incipient god realm. Their souls were indeed intimidating. Although they couldn't release their energy at the maximum rate since they didn't have a soul altar, ordinary warriors would never gain the upper hand in a soul fight with them. However, Shiryan's soul was mysterious and unpredictable due to the other soul that had fused with the origin. He could use the origin to summon the heaven flames easily. The heaven flames had an extremely fiery power, which was enough to destroy the souls. Kristen couldn't endure such a force, so he was hurt badly. Shiryan chuckled. He had completed his transformation, and his immortal demon form was deemed perfect. He suddenly recognized that in this magical area, as long as his soul wasn't ambushed, he could still maintain his consciousness. Those two souls couldn't capture him. Outside the bubbles were many disorderly streamers. Carlos and Kristen knew how to use the power of those streamers to attack him. Thus, he kept calm and didn't start the fight with the two souls there. However, in the outer layer of the bubble, there wasn't a single beam of streamer for them to use. In other words, Kristen and Carlos couldn't use the streamers to attack his god body. Unless they attacked his sea of consciousness and occupied his soul altar, enchanting his consciousness, he didn't need to be afraid of them. Understanding this, Shiryan smiled happily. Glancing at Kristen, who was moving restlessly, and Carlos, who was so frightened, Shiryan grinned while mocking. You two, I think you've just wasted your efforts here. Damn it. You mother asterisk cur. You plotted against me. Kristen was burnt, and he got seriously hurt. The blue crystals around him exploded one by one. His soul felt so uneasy, his situation getting worse. Kristen knew Carlos had fooled him. He knew Carlos was forcefully expelled from Shiryan's sea of consciousness. As Carlos didn't know how strong Shiryan was, he used Kristen as a shield to conduct a test. We don't have much time left. Carlos thundered. Kristen was shaken. He knew they were birds on the same wire. If they couldn't take over Shiryan's soul altar, they would be doomed here. The two of them exchanged looks. They hesitated, preparing for the second murderous attack. Shiryan glared at them, not saying anything. His god body in the immortal demon form moved like a sharp weapon that could pierce through everything. He broke out of the blue area, rocketing in another direction. Evil Dragon McGee was there. The 2,000 meters long evil dragon was struggling hard in pain. Blood sprayed out of its body like a shower of rain. McGee's scaled body had so many blue electric beams wound around it, squeezing into his flesh as if they wanted to grind his giant body, killing him slowly in a nasty way. Ibaka had moved inside McGee. Blue crystals covered the dragon's giant head. Those crystals could generate a blue liquid that could shield the dragon's head from the attack of the blue electric arc. The real function of the ice blue crystal was to protect the soul from external attack with a premise that this soul had a body. Ibaka used those crystals to cover McGee's head to protect his own soul hiding inside the head from the electric beams. Although Carlos and Kristen also had the same kind of blue crystals without a body, they couldn't protect themselves. Those crystals were melted, broken almost completely. At the moment Shiryan found McGee, he felt the thick blue electric beams start to seep towards his soul altar. Kristen and Carlos hurried to follow him from the other corner, their faces horrible. Shiryan halted. His face looked cold as he was searching for something in the void. A starlight arm that dragged a brilliant tail of over 1,000 meters grabbed some crystals, pulling them to him. Those crystals belonged to Kristen. As they were hovering around his soul, Shiryen had taken them. Boom, boom, boom. The blue crystals stuck on Shiryen's head like some medicinal patches. He looked like he was wearing a bizarre crystal helmet. The moment the crystals covered his head, he could feel beams of electric discharge, which were trying to attack his soul altar, retreat quietly. They didn't swarm over his soul altar anymore. At this moment, his soul was safe. It worked. Shiryen grinned, coldly looking at Kristen, who was enraged. You don't like it? Oh yeah, you can try to invade my soul one more time. I will make your soul perish. Kristen discolored in fright. Carlos was also scared. He was baffled, looking at Shiryen. He was hesitant whether he could continue attacking the other or not. Break! Shiryen shouted as a flame flew out of his left eye. A fiery light ball shot out of his eyes, moving like a meteor towards McGee's head. The flaming light ball suddenly changed, turning into many smaller flames that entered the evil dragon's head. Those flames had the aura of the heaven flames, the most scorching flames that could burn down all kinds of souls and entities. Ibaka screamed, flying away from McGee's head. He knew that the origin flame could destroy both his and McGee's soul. He thought that Shiryen wanted to kill him and McGee at the same time. He didn't dare to linger. Seeing the incoming danger, Ibaka immediately flew away, avoiding the burning flame. With wild schemes, those three souls had dragged Shiryen, evil dragon McGee, and the Ice Woman here in an attempt to take their body to enter some place. Up till now, the Ice Woman had perished, and her soul and body had both vanished. Shiryen and McGee were still safe, relatively. At this moment, the three souls were forcefully expelled. They didn't have a flesh host anymore. The three souls formed a formation, silently surrounding Shiryen. Their clear or blurry faces were filled with bone-deep resentment. You're just three soul remnants. You can use the space streamers to attack us. But, in this place, you're just three ghosts. Without a god body or a soul altar, you can't use the power Upanishad. Dare to fight with me? Do you want to die? Shiryen was calm and unafraid, just talking coldly and harshly. If you retreat now, you can escape this place before your soul vanishes. If you want to attack me, haha, don't blame me for striking at your soul until you have nothing left. Evil dragon McGee panted hard. He was still bleeding. He seemed to be enduring a terrible pain. However, his big eyes, which were filled with resentment, were gazing at Ibaka without blinking. I will remember you. If I survive this time, I will show you how intimidating our evil dragon tribe can be. Ibaka's face became chilled. Chapter 964. I'm sure I'll handle it. Chapter 964. I'm sure I'll handle it. __. Then, I have to kill you here. Deep in Ibaka's eyes was a chilling cold intent. He shouted, then attempted to attack one more time. Carlos and Kristen were on his left and right. Hearing him, they screamed hurriedly. Be watchful of that kid. He's not easy to deal with. Don't get into his soul. Ibaka studied Shiryen. His soul altar's strange. It's tough. We've had bad experiences. Kristen said. We must kill him first, and we have to unite to do so. Ibaka, don't be impetuous. Ibaka was baffled. He turned to Carlos, who nodded with a cold and dark expression. All right. We'll kill this brat first. Ibaka was cold. He hated Shiryen and wanted to kill him out there. If Carlos hadn't stopped him, Shiryen would have been executed already. From Kristen and Carlos' attitude, Ibaka knew Shiryen wasn't ordinary. He didn't dare to act rashly, exchanging looks with the other two. They planned to join hands to knock down Shiryen's soul altar first. You should leave, Shiryen suddenly turned to McGee, who was still bleeding. He hesitated for a while and then muttered, if you can endure it furthermore, will you move forward to see what's in the center of this place? Evil Dragon McGee was surprised. He didn't know why Shiryen had rescued him many times. He could explain that Shiryen had helped him when they were out there because he wanted to use his power to deal with Ibaka's team. However, when they had got inside the membrane of the bubble, Shiryen seemed unafraid of the dangers. Apparently, he wasn't afraid of Ibaka's team. McGee didn't know why Shiryen wanted more troubles to rescue him. "Just remember, you owe me this favor," Shiryen chuckled. "Move, I'll handle it. I'll stop them. I'm sure they won't trouble you more." Shiryen had his calculation. From the woman of the Ice Clan, Shiryen knew McGee was the youngest son of the evil dragon tribe's patriarch. In Agate Star Area, the evil dragon tribe was famous for its intimidation. It was the strongest branch of the monster clan, whose position was crucial. He wanted to take advantages of its authority. As time flew hurriedly, it could be dozens of years passing by. Shiryen didn't know if his friends and family in the old Orchid Star had been suffering from the disaster or not. However, he was sure that they couldn't live well in the far west region, even if they had survived that catastrophe. No matter what happened, he would never forget the resentment. Anyway, the Agate Star Area was different from the other star areas. With only himself alone, he couldn't raise any storm in the far west region. If he could have a powerful support, he wouldn't need to worry too much. He could find shelter for those who had survived. Since the evil dragon tribe was a mighty force, it could be a force he could count on. If he had a good relationship with McGee by helping him escape this area, it would be easier for him in the future. Shiryen was trying to create a good relationship with McGee. "Are you sure you can handle it?" McGee didn't believe in him. "With only your power, are you sure you can deal with the three of them? Are you sure?" "Don't worry, just go. I'll help you resolve them." "Don't worry. I'm sure I can handle it." Shiryen smiled, comforting the dragon. "You monsters don't know how to engage in soul fighting. You can't help me with anything even if you stay. You'd better leave early. Even if I die here, as long as you can escape, you will take revenge for me later. What do you think?" McGee wasn't an idiot. Listening to Shiryen's explanation, he quieted down. Suddenly, he nodded and said nothing more before leaving. Ibaka's team didn't attribute much value to McGee. In their eyes, even if the monster clan was strong, they were of no use in this unique space. As long as they could clean Shiryen up, they would have plenty of time to kill McGee. Thus, none of them prevented him from leaving. They all focused on Shiryen. However, the direction evil dragon McGee had taken made them chilled. McGee didn't run away. He followed Shiryen's words, and he was confident of his tenacious body. The dragon rocketed towards the center of the bubble. He wanted to see what the three souls had been yearning for in that area. Sizzle, sizzle, sizzle. Clusters of flames flew out of Shiryen's eyes. Those flames were scarlet, orange, red, and gold. They looked like clusters of clouds, bobbing by Shiryen. They made the place look like the morning haze that was vividly alive. Those flames were the power of the heaven flames originated from the other soul. It was using the power of the flames to create a sea of fire. Shiryen stayed in the center of the fire sea. He was busy but still deliberate, looking at the three souls while grinning. "Come try me." Not many kinds of energies could damage the soul. Shiryen didn't know if his space power and star power could do it or not, but he was sure that the scorching flame could exhaust the soul. It could even burn the soul, making it turn into nothingness. Indeed, when he used his other soul as the source of energy to diffuse clusters of flame continually, the three souls became hesitant. The three faces of the three souls became heavy. They slowly moved forward, carefully touching the flame. None of them dared to rush. Shiryen released a flow of soul consciousness. Boom, boom. The blue electric discharge immediately rushed towards Shiryen's soul consciousness. Shortly, it was smashed down, sending numbness to Shiryen's brain. With cold eyes, Shiryen quieted down. He didn't release soul consciousness from his main soul anymore. Eventually, he knew whichever soul consciousness it would be destroyed in this area. However, the flaming sea created by the heaven flames of the other soul wasn't affected. Clusters of flames connected each other, creating a vast sea of fire with Shiryen in the center. The haughty Ibaka was the first one touching the heaven flame as he came to a red-orange flame. His clear facial features blurred, as if it were twisted by the wind, making him look terrible. Ibaka was frightened. He immediately moved away from the flaming sea, his face grim while looking at Carlos and Kristen. This brat's tough, indeed. Ibaka gritted his teeth while glaring at Carlos maliciously. We should have killed him when we were out there. Now we don't have the space streamers to use. Tell me, what should we do? The three souls hovered by the edge of the fire sea, trying to find a slit to jump in. However, after moving around for several times, they hadn't found any entrance. The heaven flames generated by the origin were fatal to their souls. Thus, they didn't dare to act rashly. The blue crystals around the three souls had bigger cracks under the power of the blue electric arcs. Ibaka's team became more restless. They knew they couldn't linger anymore. They knew what kind of tremendous pressure they would have to bear after their crystals were gone. Get lost, Shiryen smiled mockingly, his voice unfriendly. If you don't dare to risk your lives and kill me, what can you ghostly souls do? Haha, your defense will be gone soon. I can see that your doomsday is near. The immortal demon blood was being combusted in his body. He was using up his blood rapidly. Shiryen was still maintaining the immortal demon form. It was perfect, but it was consuming a lot of energy as the electric beams were attacking each corner of his body. In this area, the god body would be eroded with every passing minute. The hazy electric beams were like sharp swords madly destroying his god body. If his body weren't strong enough, his condition would be much terrible. He would have been dissolved, turning into nothingness. The massive energy stored in the immortal demon blood was accumulated with Shiryen's great efforts. Each drop of immortal demon blood was pretty precious. In this place, Shiryen was consuming immortal demon blood every second. If it weren't necessary, Shiryen didn't want to waste his energy to maintain the immortal demon form. It was a torture to his body anyways. Seems like he can't endure any longer. Carlos' eyes brightened, grinning. Even if his god body could be more tenacious, he couldn't use it forever. Just like us, he's consuming energy rapidly. Once he can't endure it anymore, his consciousness would be affected. We will have our chance, right? Ibaka and Kristen were shaken, nodding quietly. Oh, you don't treasure your lives. Shiryen felt funny. Initially, he didn't want to waste much energy. Anyway, the other three, the ones that were like the arrow at the end of its flight, thought that he would soon finish the energy of his god body. Swoosh, swoosh, swoosh. Surging flames gushed out of Shiryen's eyes. The fiery power of the flame was scorching hot, covering the entire place as if it wanted to burn down everything else. The clusters of flame hovering around his body were revived by his other soul. They formed 3 different rivers, extending towards Carlos, Ibaka, and Kristen respectively. He attacked proactively. Carlos's team discolored in fright. They were helplessly frightened. As they were scared of the fire sea, they hurried to move away. Shiryen laughed coldly while his god body gradually disappeared into the fire sea. However, the 3 flaming rivers were still moving as though they had eyes, following the 3 souls closely. Ibaka and the other 2 could only run for their lives. Boom, boom, boom. Their blue crystals all exploded. While the fire rivers were chasing after them, their souls were exposed. The blue electric beam seized the chance and entangled them all. Their thought of killing Shiryen vanished. They were way too frightened, returning using the old track. They didn't dare to enter further. The 3 of them were filled with sorrow and despair. Their chance, which could appear only after several thousand years, was available to the others. They were so bitter that they wanted to vomit blood. The electric beams moved like sharp knives in their souls as a drilling heart pain flooded their soul. Kristen faced the worst damage. Shortly after, he halted as his soul was weakened. Under the blue electric beams, his life seal scattered and he perished quickly. Ibaka and Carlos were still flying hastily. They wanted to get rid of this dangerous place while their soul energy was draining rapidly. Shiryen had retrieved the heaven flame energy, flying at his max speed towards the deeper place inside the bubble. He wanted to see what was in there, what was worth the other 3 to spend so much efforts for thousands of years. You're tuning in to the Phoenix Nights YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.